Mystery, Night Court, Nut House, and Quantum Leap will not be seen tonight. Now stay tuned for an NBC Sports presentation.
Welcome to Chicago, Illinois for Game 1 between the Giants and the Cubs. And here in the Windy City, it is baseball bedlam.
Destiny, it says it all. The Cubs are going to win in '89.
Go Cubs, #1.
Everybody picked us 5th and 6th, and we did it. We did. No one thought we could, and we did. That's all that matters. Chicago, we did it. I'm ready for the 1989 World Championship.
Last time I saw the Cubs play in a World Series, my father had taken me here in 1945. I remember paying $2 for a grandstand ticket.
The Cubs have to play the A's in the World Series because I definitely want to hear Harry Carey say Canseco.
It is a nippy 57-degree night at Wrigley in Chicago. Capacity crowd 39,000 on hand. Hi, everybody. I'm Marv Albert, and we welcome you to Game 1 between the San Francisco Giants and the Chicago Cubs. Game 1 of the National League Championship Series. Coming up a little bit later on, Vince Scully, Tom Seaver will bring you all the action. Tonight's pitchers for the Giants: Scott Garrelts, a man who's made the tradition successfully from the bullpen to the starting rotation, record of 14-5, ERA 2.28 to lead the National League. And for the Cubs, 23-year-old Greg Maddux. After a slow start, he came on strong, finished at 19-12, earned run average 2.95. And this, a matchup of managers who know each other very well. Don Zimmer and Roger Craig, a longtime friends and teammates. Only 2 years ago, Zimmer coached under Craig at San Francisco, and their feelings about each other reflect great warmth.
Candlestick Park, you have heated back pads. And I was sitting in a game where we were losing 7-1. Roger always stands. And one day we're getting beat 7-1. The other team's got a man on second base. And he said, "Come here a minute." Well, I was nice and warm. Now I got to get up and go stand by him. The wind's howling. And he said to me, "Would you walk this man?" We're getting beat 7-1. I looked up at him and I said, "Walk him." I said, "You're asking me?" I said, "You get paid too much money to ask me such a question."
We talked in July when we were here that, would it be something if we met here in the playoffs? And here we are. The one good thing about it, one of us is going to manage in the World Series.
And that winner will face the winner of the American League Championship Series between the Oakland A's and the Toronto Blue Jays. And in Oakland this afternoon, the A's made it 2 out of 2 over the Blue Jays. The final 6-3. Again, Ricky Henderson, a major factor, came up with a playoff record, 4 stolen bases. That's 6 steals in 2 games for Ricky. Dave Parker connected for his first postseason home run. This gave the A's a 3-1 lead in the 6th. Oakland won it 6-3. Mike Moore, the winner. Dennis Eckersley picked up the save. Game 3 in Toronto. On Friday night, you'll see it on NBC starting with the pregame at 8. When we come back, our guest analyst Mike Schmidt will analyze. We'll hear his thoughts on the Cubs and the Giants.
NBC Sports presents the National League Championship Series, an inside look. Brought to you by Honda, who invites you to test drive the new Accord. You have to drive it to believe it. And by Wendy's Old-Fashioned Hamburgers, the best burgers in the business.
Welcome back to Wrigley Field in Chicago, where I'm joined by future Hall of Famer, the one-time third baseman for the Philadelphia Phillies, Mike Schmidt, our guest analyst during the course of this National League Championship Series. And Mike, I know this is one of your favorite ballparks. We checked the records. During the course of your career, 50 home runs at Wrigley Field. Only Mays and Aaron have hit more. And I saw your eyes lit up when you first stepped onto the field earlier.
Well, you should have seen them light up this morning when I got out of bed, Marv. I always get out and I look at Lake Michigan, and if it's calm,
the wind's blowing out. If it's not, the wind's blowing in. Dead calm this morning. Great night for baseball.
But keep in mind, you're not playing anymore.
Well, you know, every morning when I wake up, I think I'm playing.
All right, you take a look at these two clubs. The Cubs and the Giants appear to be even in every department.
They sure are, and the numbers prove that out. The Cubs were 93 and 69 over the year. The Giants 92 and 70. They were dead even in their 12-game series, 6 and 6. They were 3 and 3 in each other's ballparks. The managers are great friends. That's all we read about, right? Let's hope they aren't this week, but they do the same things when they manage, all these crazy things. It's a real even series.
Are there any advantages either way?
Well, I think there are two distinct advantages. I think the Cubs are a much better defensive team up the middle. Of course, Uribe's a pretty good player, but if they have to pinch hit for Jose late in the game and put Williams at shortstop, I think they're vulnerable up the middle. I like the Cubs' young catchers, too. They throw unbelievably well for young kids, and they have done it all year. So I like them at an edge a little bit over Kennedy. Also, the depth. We're talking about two teams that are very even now. Most ball games will be close. When we get to the late innings, that's when the games will be decided. The Cubs bench has 500 more at-bats than the Giants bench.
Now, throughout the country, the Cubs are referred to as the team of destiny. How do you react to that type of phrase?
Well, not being a player now, I kid around about destiny. I think it might mean something, but inside those clubhouses, destiny means nothing. Pete Rose used to have destiny follow him everywhere he went because he was a great pressure player. In key situations, he always seemed to come up with that line drive. Destiny hangs around teams and people that do the little things, that know how to play the game, that execute what the manager wants to be done, that pitch well in clutch situations. If you were a manager, would you have a meeting and say, fellas, relax, destiny's on our side? No, you wouldn't do that. You don't want them believing that. Destiny hangs around winning teams and comes to all the victory parties. It's something after the fact.
I get the idea, though, that you give the edge to the Cubs.
Slight edge to the Cubs. You know, the Giants have the two greatest players in the National League, and Clark and Mitchell, and a great manager. But I believe the Cubs will win because they have 4 home games.
Cubs in
7.
All right. Mike Schmidt says Cubs in 7, but it has nothing at all to do with the Cubs being the team of destiny. We'll be back in a moment.
Tribute to the spirit of competition from MCI. Proof that commitment to excellence brings out the best.
I like to wander and roam.
The crowd continues to file in here at Wrigley as we close in on game time. It'll be Scott Gereltz for the Giants, Greg Maddux for the Cubs in game 1. Back with the introduction of the starting lineups after this from NBC News.
NBC News at this hour, I'm Bob Jameson. A B-1B bomber with a stuck nose wheel will try to land at Edwards Air Force Base in California tonight. The House overwhelmingly repealed catastrophic health insurance, rejecting the year-old benefit program after many elderly objected to the added cost. A new exodus of East Germans is underway tonight, thousands going by special trains from Czechoslovakia to West Germany. In Washington, Lebanese terrorist Fawaz Yunus was sentenced to 30 years in prison for the 1985 hijacking of a Jordanian jet with 2 Americans on board. And a University of Toronto study found that men who eat a lot of snacks instead of 3 large meals decrease their risk of heart attacks. More news later on this NBC station.
Welcome back to Wrigley in Chicago. We're set for the rundown of the starting lineups. Let's go to the public address voice of the Chicago Cubs, Wayne Messmer.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to beautiful Wrigley Field for Game 1 of the 1989 National League Championship Series. At this time, we would like to introduce the starting lineup of the National League Western Division champions, the San Francisco Giants. First, the manager of the Giants, number 38, Roger Craig. Leading off and playing center field, number 2, Brett Butler. Batting second, the second baseman, number 6, Robbie Thompson. Playing first base and batting third, number 22, Will Clark. Batting cleanup and playing left field, number 7, Kevin Mitchell. Hitting fifth and playing third base, number 10, Matt Williams. The sixth batter, number 15, catcher Terry Kennedy. Playing right field, number 25, the seventh batter, Pat Sheridan. Batting eighth and playing shortstop, number 23, Jose Uribe. And the starting pitcher warming up in the bullpen, number 50, Scott Garrelts. And the rest of the Western Division champion, San Francisco Giants. And now, here's tonight's starting lineup for your 1989 Eastern Division champion, Chicago Cubs. Here's the manager of the Cubs, number 4, Don Zimmer. Leading off and playing center field, number 20, Jerome Walton. Batting second and playing second base, number 23, Ryan Sanford. Playing left field and batting third, number 18, Dwight Smith. In the cleanup spot, batting fourth, number 17, first baseman, Mark Grace. Hitting fifth, the right fielder, number 8, Andre Dawson. Batting sixth, number 11, the third baseman, Luis Salazar. The shortstop hitting seventh, number 12, Sean Dunston. Batting eighth, the catcher, number 1, Rick Rona. And tonight's starting pitcher, warming up in the bullpen, number 31, Greg Maddox. And the rest of the Chicago Cubs, ladies and gentlemen, your 1989 Eastern Division champions, our Chicago Cubs. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we ask that you please rise for the presentation of the colors presented by the Fort Sheridan Color Guard from Fort Sheridan, Illinois. And now to honor America, please welcome popular entertainer Jimmy Buffett, who will lead us in the singing of our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Game one of the National League Championship Series, moments away with Vince Scully and Tom Seaver. I'm Marv Albert. We'll be back after this from your local station.
It's a high C mystery.
Stands alone on the corner of Clark and Addison, this dowager queen, dressed in basic black and pearls, 75 years old, proud head held high and not a hair out of place, awaiting yet another date with destiny, another time for Mr. Right. She dreams, as old ladies will, of men gone long ago. Joe Tinker, Johnny Evers, Frank Chance, and of those of recent vintage like her man Ernie and the Lion and sweet Billy Williams.
For Ronnie Sano, for Ernie Banks and myself who performed here and couldn't bring that pennant home to Chicago fans, it's certainly a great pleasure for us to stand on the sideline and look out there and see the Chicago Cubs playing in the playoff game and, of course, playing in the World Series.
And she thinks wistfully of what might have been. And the pain is still fresh and new. And her eyes fill, her lips tremble, and she shakes her head ever so slightly. And then she sighs, pulls her shawl tightly around her frail shoulders and thinks, this time it will be better. Welcome to Wrigley Field, Chicago, and Game 1 of the National League Championship Series between the San Francisco Giants and the Chicago Cubs. Temperature in the Windy City, a warm 55 at this hour with light breeze 5 to 10 miles an hour, and the forecast fair and cloudy. Hi, everybody. I'm Vince Scully, along with Tom Seaver. Welcome to Wrigley Field. And we do what everybody does. When you come to the ballpark, we check the flags, and they're not stirring.
Everybody checks their flags when they come here, Vinny, especially the pitchers. They'll tell you they don't adjust their game according to the way the flags are blowing. That's not the truth. They will check the flags, whether it's blowing in, out, or not blowing at all. It is a factor at Wrigley Field.
Well, what does it mean now as far as the Cubs? Is there an advantage to either team?
There's definitely an advantage at not blowing in for the Giants, with their two big power hitters, Clark and Mitchell. Having the wind not blowing in gives an advantage to the Giant ball club, I believe.
What do the Cubs have to do to keep the Giants quiet?
You got to keep the first two guys off the base, Butler and Thompson. I think that's the key for Don Zimmer and the Cubs if they want to win. Keep the two guys off the base. Don't give up the 3-run home run.
Now, what does Roger Craig and the Giants have to do to keep the Cubs down?
You never know what Zim's going to do. He'll hit and run or do anything. And the big thing I think that the Cubs will do it. They will run, and they will definitely run on the Giant catcher, Terry Kennedy.
Well, it's going to be wild and woolly, so pull up a chair. They'll be rolling around Wrigley right after this.
Game 5 with enthusiasm and emotion. A jam-packed crowd, many of whom brought signs, placards, banners, you name it. It is hard to realize the Cubs are playing another team, but they are. And for the Giants, they must feel somewhat alone on an island in a sea of hysteria. The lineups go this way for those visiting Giants, a solid ball club that won 92 games during the regular year. Brett Butler leads off in center field, Robbie Thompson at second base, and Will Clark at first. Kevin Mitchell in left field. Matt Williams will be at third base. Terry Kennedy behind the plate. Pat Sheridan will be in right field batting seventh. Jose Uribe at shortstop, and the pitcher Scott Garrelts. Trying to stop that lineup is young Greg Maddux, 19 and 12, 2-1 against the Giants this year, 5-4 lifetime. A youngster who pitches better at home. So you have a contrast because Scott Garrelts certainly pitches better at Candlestick, and he's on the road tonight. Maddux was 10 and 5 during the regular year here at Wrigley Field.
The defense for the Cubs, a good defensive ball club. Dwight Smith in left field, Jerome Walton in center, Andre Dawson, the veteran, in right field. Luis Salazar, who came over late in the season from the San Diego Padres, at third. Sean Dunston, a maturing, outstanding shortstop. Ryan Sandberg at second base. Mark Grace at first. Rick Rona behind the plate. And Greg Maddux on the mound. Rona and Joe Girardi do the catching for the Cubs, and they throw very well. You heard Mike Schmidt talk about that in the pregame show. The Cubs are blessed with some good young catching.
Both teams share a common leadoff hitter. Each man leading off bunts exceptionally well. Brett Butler, with 23 bunt singles, puts tremendous pressure, and the Cubs immediately bring up the corners. It's one thing to get down a good bunt, but when you have averaged 22 bunt singles a year for the last 6 years, everybody knows you bunt, and he still beats you. So here's Butler to start it off. 0-1.
Look how far Salazar is at third base. I mean, he is way in there. Don Zimmer, the manager of the Cubs, saying already we're going to take this aspect of your game away from you.
Foul ball, 1 ball and 1 strike. For Brett Butler, this has to be a pretty big night, the importance of the game. He was born in Los Angeles but moved to Libertyville at 12 years of age. He went to Libertyville High School here in Illinois. When he was a senior at Libertyville, he weighed 119 pounds, and they said, well, forget playing ball, you're too small. He went to Arizona State, and here he is at Wrigley. Foul ball down the line, and you can bet half of Libertyville will be here tonight. Butler against the Cubs this year, whether it's a matter of trying too hard or what, hit just .217 against them. One ball and 2 strikes to count. 2-2. Another thing about Butler as he works against Greg Maddux. And Greg, who doesn't look like it, a power pitcher, and Butler, a fellow who loves to get aboard. He strikes out just a little bit more than he walks. Fisted to the hole and through, base hit. So, Tommy, you were saying the one thing that the Cubs have to do is keep Butler and Thompson off the bases, and Butler immediately opens up with a hit.
Butler with 2 strikes going to the left side. One of the things about speed, it puts great pressure on the defense. Even with 2 strikes, you could see that Luis Salazar had moved back, but just even with the bag. Now, that ball hit not extremely well, but right in the right spot between Salazar and Dunston.
The batter is Robbie Thompson. And there goes Butler. The pitch bunted down to third. Salazar is on it for the out. And on the sacrifice, Butler takes second. Robbie Thompson, a very good bunter. 9 times during the year he laid it down. And now you have the pressure. What do you do with Will Clark? You have first base open, but you have Kevin Mitchell to follow.
You wonder what Zimmer's going to do. Is he, in fact, swinging left-handed, going to take the bat out of Clark's hand? Maybe you're not going to walk him intentionally, but you're going to pitch around him. You can see the strengths and weaknesses of Will Clark. One of the most beautiful swings in baseball. The place to pitch him, you got to pitch him real hard inside. And you have to change speeds. Like any good hitter, you have to change speeds. And your fastball, if you're going to throw it, you better throw it from the inside edge of the plate in. Don't leave it out over the plate.
And the first pitch goes to the backstop. He tried to get it in and got it too far inside. And on what we assume to be a wild pitch, Brett Butler takes third. So Maddox, with tremendous pressure on him, a 19-game winner, and maybe just trying too hard on that pitch. And now they're going to call it a pass ball, okay? So Butler advances to third.
Tough ball, but it gives you an idea of the way that Maddox wants to pitch against Clark. Maddox is not afraid to throw inside. One of the things that Dick Cole, the pitching coach here with the Cubs, has been trying to do is to get his young pitchers to pitch inside, and Maddox will do it.
Good save that time by Rona on a pitch in the dirt. Clark has changed considerably as a hitter. You know, the Giants made Clark the second player taken in the draft of '85, the year they lost a club record 100 games. 2 years later, as a regular, he helped the Giants finish first. This year, he hit .333, but sacrificed a little power. Having hit 35 and 29 the first 2 years, he hit 23 this year. And he slices one in the gap, and Walden can't get it. It's backed up by Smith. Clark into second base with the double. So the Giants do what they want to do. They get the drop. And they lead 1-0 as Clark, a fly ball double up the alley. And Butler brings home the run.
Roger Craig showed you the kind of baseball that he wants to play. Put the pressure on the Cubs. He wants to get on the board first. That's evident with a sacrifice by Thompson. And then here with a man on third base, less than 2 outs. Will Clark of the beautiful swing, and what a gorgeous swing he does have. Right between Smith and Walton in the outfield. Both those outfielders with decent speed.
Kevin Mitchell at the plate. Interestingly enough, the only parks in which Kevin didn't homer this year were the Astrodome and Wrigley Field. So as he looks down the friendly confines, the Giants have one in, Clark at second with 1 out, and Matt Williams on deck. Good fastball. That's the first time Maddox really did not seem to be fighting himself or trying to do too much.
Nothing fancy from Greg Maddox. Fastball, change-up, and a curveball. Here, the fastball right by Kevin Mitchell. He is not afraid to challenge any hitter. You talk to people around with the Chicago Cubs. The one word you hear about Greg Maddox, he has a great heart, great intestinal fortitude.
Fastball is banged to center, but Clark was going back to second, thinking maybe Sandberg would make a play. So Will can move over to third and hold there. So Maddox in the first inning has given up 2 singles and a double. The Giants leading 1-0, and Matt Williams will be the batter.
Here you see Clark at second base. Good base running. All young players should be taught to go back toward the base on a line drive so you don't get doubled up. Now remember, Clark, an injury late in the season when he slid into Mike Sochi. He has a bruise on his leg. He did not run extremely well in the double. He has had some problems with his shin. You can't keep him out of the lineup, of course. Certainly not bad enough to have him sit on the bench.
Matt Williams with great power. Of his last 59 hits this year, 37 of them were for extra bases and 18 home runs. Tremendously strong. So first and third, 1 out, 1-0 in favor of the Giants. In there. By the way, Doug Harvey is the plate umpire. Bruce Fremming, Terry Tata, and Jim Quick working the bases. Charlie Williams down the left field line, and Randy Marsh down in the right field line. No balls, 1 strike. Maddox, although you wouldn't think to see him, is basically a power pitcher, even though he only weighs 170 pounds. He's a power pitcher and a workhorse. He has also, in the last 2 years, become one of the finest pitchers in the major leagues. Breaking ball hit down the right field line. Base hit. Dawson can't cut it off. Let's see what they do with Mitchell. Bill Fahey is waving Mitchell in. Sandberg's throw to the plate, not in time. So Matt Williams doubles in too, and it is 3-0 in favor of the Giants. So Williams went with the breaking ball to show you his advancement as a hitter. And Don Zimmer heading to the mound to talk to Maddox. So in the inning, 2 singles, 2 doubles. And the Giants, who have scored a lot of runs in the first inning throughout the year, have jumped out 3-0. In fact, the Giants have scored 100 runs in the first inning of their games this year. Another thing these teams have in common, and you see the Giants out in front, they have both won games where they figured to lose. You know, the Cubs trailed Houston in August 9-0 and came back to win 10-9. And the Giants trailed Cincinnati 8-0 and won 9-8. Here's that shot of the breaking ball down the right field line and Dawson's inability to cut it off. So now it's 3-0 and Terry Kennedy at the plate trying to pick up Matt Williams. Ball 1. Pressure, nerves, they apply to a young pitcher in his first LCS game.
You talk about Maddox, he's only 23 years old, and a lot of people around here yesterday said he looked very nervous. You'll feel it in butterflies, you'll feel it just being overall uncomfortable.
I watched him from afar warming up in the Cub bullpen, and a couple of times through the glasses he'd make a pitch and I'd watch him and he would shake his head.
He wasn't very happy, was he?
No, he was not happy with himself at all warming up.
He and Dick Pohl right down working in the bullpen before the game, and it looked like he was pulling left. There you see the pitching coach pull on the dugout for the Cubs, pulling his whole body left and seemed to be slinging the ball as opposed to driving it to home plate.
Fouled away, 1-2. Probably the best single pitch he's made so far tonight. The one pitch that made you see him as a 19-game winner was that fastball he threw by Kevin Mitchell. But that's not enough.
You know, one of the weaknesses of the Giants is the strikeouts. They've 1,071 strikeouts, more than anybody in the National League. We've gone through the part of the lineup that strikes out a lot. Thompson, Clark, Mitchell, they all strike out a lot. And he hasn't gotten a strikeout yet.
1-2. And that's hit inside out down the left field line. Foul down into the Cub bullpen. Dwight Smith over to pick it up. So it is 3-0 in favor of the Giants in the first inning. If things go badly for the Cubs amidst all the hysteria, all you can do is think of a column that Mike Royko wrote here. He said the Chicago Cubs, like life itself, are a losing cause. That's why we have cemeteries and Wrigley Field. Well, we'll see. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Kennedy. Fouled away again.
You can see Kennedy, a contact hitter, tries to hit the ball up the middle, hit the ball to left field, especially with 2 strikes.
For Maddox, he is working very hard now. He's made 20 pitches here in the first inning. And remember, the only out was on the sacrifice by Robbie Thompson. Chopper to the right of the mound. Maddox can't get it. Sandberg is there to make the play. And over to third goes Matt Williams, and that's the second out. The batter now will be Pat Sheridan, and Sheridan is one of those players. It would appear as if he is a winner wherever he goes. Victory follows him. In his 7-year career, he's played on 4 first-place teams: the 84 and 85 Royals, the 87 Tigers, and now the 89 Giants. That's a strike. He's not a power hitter, but you may remember he pinch hit the game-tying home run in the 9th inning of Game 2 in Toronto in the 85 playoffs. He hit the game-winning home run in the 8th inning in Game 3 of the 87 playoffs. And hits a looper into shallow left, and Dunston picks it off. But Greg Maddux, somewhat disillusioned, gives up 3 runs, 4 hits. And at the end of half an inning, Giants 3, Cubs coming up. The Giants come out of the starting gate with 3, and here's the way the Cubs try to answer back. Jerome Walden, Ryan Sandberg, and Dwight Smith, followed by Mark Grace, Andre Dawson, and Luis Salazar, Sean Dunston, Rick Rona, and Greg Maddux. And trying to slow down Chicago, Scott Gereltz, a 14-game winner and the #1 pitcher in the National League in earned run average, although he has struggled on the road this year compared to how successful he is at Candlestick. Hard hopper to Matt Williams, who was looking bunt and takes care of Walton. 1 pitch, 1 away. Nice play by Williams.
Matt Williams weighing up on the baseline the same way that the Cubs were defending against Brett Butler, and a one-up shot right at him. One of the problems that the Giants had was that number 5 spot in their lineup, and Matt Williams has fitted it very well. There's a good defensive third base. Both managers saying, listen, we're going to take away the bunt from you, make you hit the ball by our third baseman.
Here's Ryan Sandberg. Of his career-high 30 home runs, 18 of them came in a burst in the second half. In 40-some-odd games, that's where he went wild with a home run. That's when the Cubs took over first place for good and established themselves as the team to beat. 2-0 the count. Sandberg did not commit an error in his last 90 games. 9 of his home runs this year came in the first inning. 2 balls and no strikes. On the inside corner. Gereltz, fastball, hard slider, and a very, very good splitter, a split finger, which he uses somewhat like a change. And he throws strikes. He was basically a relief pitcher converted to a starter because he was ineffective, and his control is magnificent. From last year to this, he walked the same number of batters, but he worked almost 100 innings more this year. So his control has improved dramatically. Chopper inside third and down the line, and that'll wake him up here at Wrigley. And Sandberg into second with a stand-up double. These teams are so even in so many areas. On paper, of course, they split the 12. They split 6 here and at Candlestick. They are also great come-from-behind teams. Both the Giants and the Cubs are explosive. The Cubs, for instance, 33 times this year have come back to win, and 20 times since the last week in July.
You see Williams driving for the ball. Sandberg had 25 doubles during the regular season. He can hit a fastball any place in the strike zone. Gereltz has a good one, too.
So with Sandberg at second, Dwight Smith at the plate. And on deck, a fellow who is hitting 700 against Gereltz, Mark Grace. And there's ball 2. Mark Grace had really ripped Gereltz going head-to-head, so it'll be interesting to see what happens not only tonight, but anytime they match up. So Dwight Smith had a big year. Hits it foul down the left field line in the crowd. And this large crowd seeing things for the Cubs with their hearts, understandably. 2-1 the count. We will get the same fervor, the same feeling, the same excitement when we go to Candlestick Park. 2-1 to Dwight Smith. Out away again.
You can see both pitches here how late Dwight Smith is. Gereltz with a good fastball. He used to come out of the bullpen, try to throw the ball 100 miles an hour. Hasn't made any starts. Prior to this year, the last 2 years, no starts, and Roger Craig converted him to a starter. He's a different kind of pitcher. He's backed off a little bit on that fastball.
Fouled away right into the Cub dugout. Dwight Smith almost got a couple of teammates. He was so late on that shot. And the count, 2 balls, 2 strikes.
An idea of how hard Scotty Gereltz throws. You can see Smith how late he is. That ball absolutely flat by him. Swinging at a 93, 94, 95 mile an hour fastball.
2-2. Got him. So Dwight Smith strikes out. 2 down in the first inning. And the batter will be Mark Grace.
Good pitching by Scotty Gereltz in the sense that he knew that he had Dwight Smith beaten. Dwight Smith never showed that he could get the bat head out in front of the strike zone. You don't give him an off-speed pitch where he can get the bat head out there. You can see the ball right by him. No chance.
Now this will be an interesting matchup. Not only is it important for Grace to get aboard. You have Andre Dawson on deck. That's fouled away. Grace is trying to keep his mastery of Gereltz. He hit .386 against the Giants this year, and he had 12 RBIs in a dozen games, so they know all about Mark. It's 3-0 Giants as the Cubs try to come back and recover in the first inning. Foul back, so immediately he's out in front. 0-2 on Grace.
You get a picture of how the Giants will play Mark Grace. Brett Butler way over in left center. You see the big gap in right center. And Butler even now with 2 strikes, knowing that Grace will. There's Wendell Kim on the phone to the press box, the eye in the sky. Even with an 0-2 count, Grace will go to left field even more, and Butler will move over 1 or 2 more steps.
Way outside, almost threw that away. 1-2 the count. Well, you can see Butler moving to the gap. Mitchell going closer to the line. And Grace trying to defend the plate. 1 ball and 2 strikes. 2 down. Sandberg at second. 3-0 Giants. First inning. And that's a splitter that missed. 2-2 the count. Boy, that took some discipline to take that pitch.
I don't think he even wanted to throw it in the strike zone. When you look at the defensive alignment, I mean, there are acres down that right field line. Do you think Mark Grace can forget about looking for a pitch inside? Look how much room is down the right field line. He can just flat look away.
Foul back.
They're going to pitch him away, play him away.
Deuces wild on Mark Grace here in the first inning. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out, and a runner at second. That's all the vast area in the unoccupied right field. Randy Marsh all alone on the line. And that's hit down the left field line. Foul. So Grace continues to go. The old baseball story, take what they give you. Going to pitch him away. He's not going to try to pull, and the count stays 2-2.
This is the kind of situation a pitcher could put himself in for a lot of criticism. You can see they're pitching away, pitch him away, play him away. As hard as Scotty Gereltz throws, and as much as they've thrown the ball on the outside part of the plate, if he pops the ball in the inside corner, they can get Grace.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Mark's been looking away through the sequence of about a half a dozen pitches. And that's fouled away.
He tried to go in. He didn't get it in far enough.
You wonder if you are Terry Kennedy, or especially Terry Kennedy, if you are watching Mark Grace as to see whether he's cheating in the box. Is he beginning to adjust? Is he trying to move up on the plate or in on the plate?
He knows that they're going outside. He knows they're going to pitch him outside.
2-2 to Mark Grace. And time now. Kennedy going out. Let's see if this is a setup or a decoy with a runner at second. Maybe changing the signs, although it's very early to do that.
Could be changing the signs. Through the years, even when I was a player here in the National League, the Chicago Cubs notorious, at least from a reputation standpoint, of stealing signs. I used to have stories about secret pair of eyes in the scoreboard out there. You can see the scoreboard in center field has always a couple of windows where the people that work up there look out, and always everybody said, oh boy, they've got spies up there with telescopes and they're relaying signs.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Foul back again. That's 4 consecutive foul balls on a 2-2 count. What a battle here. And again, remember, Andre Dawson representing the tying run should Grace get aboard. Dawson is on deck.
You could see Kennedy move inside on that last pitch, and Gereltz just has not gotten it in far enough. He's thrown out on the inside. Here he's blocking the signs from third base coach Chuck Cartier.
2-2.
Kennedy, a veteran catcher. Is about with this young pitcher, you're going to get it in. You want to get it way in there. If you're going to miss on the inside part of the plate, you miss from the edge of the plate toward the hitter. You don't miss out over the plate.
Slap foul again. 5 consecutive foul balls. Of course, Terry Kennedy has tried to outfox the Cubs before. Terry was the catcher for the San Diego Padres that defeated the Cubs in 1984. And Kennedy and company went to play the Tigers in the World Series. When he hits the inside of his thigh, he's not saying inside, is he?
He wants to go outside here. Get the outside thigh.
Boy, what an eye to take that with 2 strikes. Now, an extremely important pitch.
Mark Grace, when you look at him, you're looking at one of the great eyes in the National League, especially for a young hitter. 80 base on balls, only 42 strikeouts this year for Mark.
3-2. Foul back at 6 foul balls. 5 in a row, then ball 3, then another foul. I was going to say Zimmer ran his fingers through his hair. Forget it.
Is that a sign?
Not quite. What a miracle man he is. Any guy who can sell a diet and fried chicken the same year is a miracle man. What a guy. 3-2. High fly ball to left field and pretty deep. Back goes Mitchell to the ivy. Gone! Boy, he is amazing, and the Giants will agree. He is 8 for 11 with 2 home runs against the king in the earned run average in the National League, and they want him to take a curtain call. Hit off the end of the stick slowly to the right side to Robbie Thompson for the 3rd out. But the Cubs have gotten what they needed and needed desperately. And they're back in the ball game on that home run by Mark Grace at the end of a wild inning. Giants 3, Cubs 2, and the overture has sounded in the League Championship Series, and it wound up an explosive at-bat as it got the Cubs back in the game and lifted them to within 1. It took 12 pitches before he hit it out, and he joined some rather illustrious company. So it is 3-2 in favor of the Giants, and it'll be Jose Uribe, Scott Garrelts, and Brett Butler in the 2nd. Right.
This is probably the only ballpark in the National League that ball would have been out of. The Giants saying to Mark Grace, here, we're going to pitch away, play away. You have to prove to us that you can hit the ball out of here.
0-1. Interestingly enough, although you don't realize it, you think of the friendly confines of Wrigley Field and how small it is, but the power alleys are shorter in Candlestick Park than they are here in Wrigley Field. Ground ball to first, and there's Mr. Grace. It is a memorable moment for Mark Grace, perhaps for the city of Chicago, and it's certainly worth another look.
We talk about the wind being a factor in this ballpark. Yesterday, the prediction was that the winds would be blowing in off the lake. Almost very little breeze at the start of the game, and here is blowing out gently, but definitely that ball was aided by the wind. Wind coming out of the southwest. It'll bring moisture, and it'll bring a boost to the baseball.
If you joined us a little late, Giants 3, Cubs 2. We're just in the 2nd inning. The chairs aren't warm yet. Busted bat that goes into the stands. Dunston cranks a bullet to Grace in time, and that was a blur as the bat winds up in the crowd behind the Cub dugout, and it was a lethal weapon. And fortunately, it would appear as if everyone ducked it.
Another thing about Wrigley Field, very small foul territory here, not much space from the batter's box over to where the fans are sitting, boy, and that can really be dangerous. 2 different clubs, 2 different ballparks, that wouldn't even have been a factor. If we were in Candlestick Park, here you see the slow-mo, and watch the bat just disintegrate. Sinker right in on the hands.
He wound up with a handle, a swivel stick up about 10 feet up along third, and the meat end of the bat Winds up in the crowd. The batter now is Brett Butler. Strike. Butler, you remember, opened up the ball game and singled through the hole on the left side and eventually came around to score on Will Clark's double. Giants 3, Cubs 2, second inning. What a start. Great. Fouled away. You know, if you go back to the history books and you realize the Cubs are 114 years old and the Giants, New York and San Francisco, 107 years old, only once did they ever really play one game that meant the pennant. Got it. We can tell you about that one game a little while later. And at the end of an inning and a half, Giants 3, Cubs 2. We're going to the bottom of the second inning. Giants 3, Cubs 2. Luis Salazar, Sean Dunston, and then Rick Rona against Scotty Garrelts. Breaking ball away, 1-0 to Salazar. Salazar, along with Marvell Wynn, coming over from San Diego, and he's really given the Cubs a boost. He has always been a good hitter. And it's another case of a player with league championship experience and World Series experience. 2-0.
And he drives it deep to left in the corner, and fair ball bouncing away from Mitchell. And he's on his way to third. Mitchell to Uribe, no play, a triple. The tying run 90 feet away. You really have to hesitate on a ball hit down in the corner because you run out of fair ground in a hurry. Let's see where that ball wound up. Hitting the ivy and kicking away from Kevin Mitchell.
You can see the shallow ground down that left field line, the right field line as well. I mean, literally no foul territory down that line. Salazar, another one of the trades by Jimmy Fry after Vance Law was slumping here for the Cubs. He went out, got Salazar, put him right in the lineup.
Here's Sean Dunston. Foul ball, and the count 0-1. A couple of things with a runner at third. What about Dunston and a fly ball? He's had 4 sacrifice flies. Is there any pressure on Scotty Garrelts? Well, he has 7 wild pitches. 0-1 the count with the tying run at third and nobody out. Dunston, Rona, and Maddox trying to get Salazar home. On the inside corner. Good pitch, and the count 0-2.
Those wild pitches coming mostly on the splitter, and he is not throwing the splitter as much as he used to for that exact reason, because of the wild pitches that he's thrown. He's sticking mainly with the fastball and the breaking ball.
0-2. 1-2, and the bottom dropped out of that one. That one game that was so important in the record books, the game known as the Fred Merkle game back in 1908. That was the one game that meant so much. The Giants and the Cubs. That's 2-2. The Giants would have won that game. It was replayed. The Cubs won it and went on to higher ground and won the World's Championship. 2-2 the count to Sean Dunston. 3-2 Giants, second inning. Salazar third. Chased the breaking ball. So Dunston strikes out, a big out. That is strikeout number 2 for Scotty Garrelts.
You see the breaking ball from Garrelts. Slider down and away. Dunston, who's not a very patient hitter. The book on him, hard stuff up and in. Breaking ball down and away. He will chase the breaking ball out of the strike zone. A big strikeout for Garrelts. The infield still playing in for San Francisco. Roger Craig does not want this game tied up. He will cut the run off if he can, especially with the hitters at the bottom of the lineup. You have to protect against the squeeze as well.
Rick Rona, who is up there now in the biggest at-bat of the year for him. Rona didn't figure to play this much, but when Damon Berryhill went down, Rona and Girardi did the catching, and Rona came into the game hitting .283. In looking at his numbers, he has struck out less than 25% of the time, and of course the Cubs want contact now, trying to get that run home. Now, Weather, in checking his bunting, he has not sacrificed this year if you're thinking about a possible squeeze play. And with Zimmer, you had better think about everything. Gurelt's off the rubber. And now Kennedy, who will look over at Roger Craig on every pitch. And you could expect a pitch out at any time. And now we are really getting into the card deal. 0-1.
You'll see the step off. Gurelt's will step off, and that was really to see if Roger Craig might be able to pick something up. He might see a tendency in Rona to plate, who might give away the fact that he might be bunting. You might see Salazar taking a little bit extra step. You can see Kennedy getting directions from the bench.
0-2. And he lost the bat as he swung and missed. Kennedy nailing him at the plate. So it shows you young hitters and the pressure of the League Championship Series, as both Dunston and Rona strike out on breaking balls way outside the strike zone. And now Roger wants to talk about Greg Maddux, a good hitting pitcher, by the way.
A great play by Terry Kennedy, keeping the ball out in front of him. You see how he kept his shoulders square to the ball. The pitch to Dunston very easily could have been a wild pitch. That pitch could have been a wild pitch down in the dirt. A good job by Kennedy behind the plate. Now watch the movement of the shoulders. Now his body moves sideways, keeps everything square. Out in front of him, the ball is going to bounce out in front of you somewhere. As long as a runner at third base sees the ball out in front of you, you really can freeze him.
Greg Maddux, a good hitting pitcher. He had 17 base hits during the year. The infield is back, and a good backhanded save. So we're talking about those wild pitches of Scotty, and he is always on the edge of committing one. And he has had a couple of fine saves. Terry Kennedy looking more like a goaltender. And another one, 2-0. Maddux had 4 runs batted in during the regular year. And he strikes out about 25% of the time for a pitcher. That makes him very dangerous. And a little pop fly back of first. Thompson has the play. Robbie puts it away, and so the tying run is left at third. And Gureltz does his job. We'll be back after these messages from your local station. We're going to the third inning. 3-2 in favor of the Giants. The momentum swinging back and forth. And once again, you would say the Giants have it because of Gureltz and Kennedy choking off the tying run. Robbie Thompson followed by Will Clark and then Kevin Mitchell. Thompson does almost everything exceptionally well, except he does strike out a lot. Robbie during the year struck out 133 times. That's a tremendous number for an infielder, especially hitting second. 1-1. The big chopper to the left is short. Dunston takes him. Boy, he throws hard. That ball sailing on Mark Grace, and Grace able to stay with it. He was almost catching a slider that time. 1 away.
I have to laugh because as an ex-pitcher, this is one of the best arms in baseball, regardless of any position, pitcher, non-pitcher, whoever. This is one of the best arms in baseball. No question about it. I asked him earlier in the year if I could borrow it. Maybe for 2 years. I promise I'd give it back.
You know, that's the Whitey Herzog line. He was drafted ahead of Dwight Gooden, and somebody said that to Whitey, and Whitey said, well, sure, he's got a better arm than Gooden.
#1 pick in the '82 draft.
Here's a #1 pick with that big swing in the count. 0-1. Will Clark, who doubled in a run in the first inning. Tony Gwynn, who won yet another batting championship, is certainly worth listening to. And he was talking about Will Clark, saying his ability to go to left field is now what has made him a premier hitter. And it was no accident that he doubled to left center to drive in the run. 1 ball, 1 strike. Ball 2, 2-1. So the Giants got 3, the Cubs got 2. The Cubs had a leadoff triple, and it died on the vine, and here we are in the third inning. Great way to start what should be a great League Championship Series. Clark's finished second in the National League to Tony Gwynn. 2-1.
Talked about one of the weaknesses that the Giants have is so many strikeouts. As a team, over 1,071 strikeouts. They have 3 fellas in the lineup in a row, Thompson, Clark, and Mitchell, all with over 100 strikeouts.
Ground foul outside of first and down the line. Of course, to balance the books, it is only fair to say they also have 3 men who have scored over 100 runs, with Messrs. Butler and Clark and Mitchell. And right behind them, Robbie Thompson.
Top 4 guys in their lineup have scored 57% of their runs.
2-2, the count to Will Clark. Off speed and away. 3-2, the count to Clark.
Be interesting to look at a 3-2 pitch as we take a look at the replay of this last one, the changeup in the outside part of the plate. Clark, a big long swing. You can see him diving into the ball, checking at the last moment. He has a long swing, but once that bat head gets to the strike zone, very quick bat speed.
A drive to right and deep. Dawson going back on the track to the ivy. It's gone. Home run, Will Clark. And the Giants take a 4-2 lead. Now let's see, are they going to throw it back or are they going to keep it? You know, that's been a tradition here. It's what? It would appear as if it's going to stay in the bleachers. No, it's been thrown out. So Will Clark hits the home run. They're funny here. I've seen balls hit out into the street by opposing players, and they'll pick them up out in the street, throw them into somebody in the bleachers who will then throw it back on the field.
Clark hit a 3-2 pitch for a home run. Race hit a 3-2 pitch for a home run.
Kevin Mitchell singled in the first inning. Fisted foul off to the right, out of play.
Talked about Clark's classic swing. Watch the bat head speed as it gets to the hitting zone. Maybe long, maybe a long time to get there, but once he accelerates that bat into the hitting zone, as good as bat speed as anybody in baseball. And he does not like to hit in this ballpark either.
No, he had only 1 home run of his 98 in his career. Only 1 here at Wrigley. Now he hits a big one tonight. 1-1 to Kevin Mitchell. Hit foul up along first, off to the right, in the count 1-2.
It's funny when you think that Clark and Mitchell hit 2 home runs between them against the Cubs this year. Just 2. The rest of the league, they had 68 against the rest of the league.
1-2 to Kevin. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Mitchell had an incredible year, especially when you realize there were 5 other players who hit 30 home runs this year. That's great in each league. He hit his 30th before the All-Star break. On the corner, got him looking. 2 down. For Greg Maddux, that would be his first strikeout.
There are certain pitches a pitcher will throw that you simply cannot hit. Reminds me of the way to pitcher Roberto Clemente, and he would give you that pitch every time. If you could put it in that spot, down and away, right on the black at the knee, Roberto Clemente would absolutely give you the pitch. That's what Mitchell did there. Just can't hit it.
0-1 to Matt Williams. What was amazing, it looked like the ball came back, too. I don't know how a right-hander throws it away and then it drifts back in.
Remember after the first inning, we saw Dick Pohl talking to Maddux in there. He was probably about pulling left, making that left shoulder turn go toward first base as opposed to down. You see how you watch the shoulder turn that Maddux makes. Earlier in the game, the first inning, was pulling that left elbow, which is really the key. The leading elbow, that will direct your shoulder rotation as a pitcher. He was pulling that left elbow, actually over toward the visiting dugout, cause you to sling it. Actually, it should come right down by your hip. That gets your hand on top of the ball. That's when you can get the ball back into the strike zone.
Half swing foul, and the count remains. No balls, 2 strikes. Take a look at Greg Maddox's motion now.
From the side, the key, the left elbow, as opposed to going horizontally, now drive it down. See how it goes down, and when that left shoulder goes down, the right shoulder goes up. Your fingers end up on top of the ball, and you remember the pitch. How it dove in on Williams.
0-2 the count to Matt Williams. Breaking ball away. It's 4-2 in favor of the Giants. Top of the third inning. 2 down, bases empty. Roger Craig and Don Zimmer, a great story, and it figures to be a great story right down to the end. What a relationship they have. Little chopper up along third, foul. When you think of Zimmer and Craig being youngsters in the Dodger organization, the Brooklyn Dodger organization, then coming up to the Dodgers, then both winding up in the opening day lineup for the New York Mets in 1962, then eventually one working for the other in San Diego when Zimmer was the manager after Preston Gomez had been released. Roger Craig was his pitching coach. But at the end of the year, Zimmer had to fire Craig, and he was in tears doing it. And he said to Roger, "You're a great pitching coach, but I promised the job to Johnny Padres, my old roommate with the Dodgers." And Craig understood. And then later on, the wheels turned, and it was Craig managing in San Francisco, and Don Zimmer was his third base coach. And there is one other note that dangles from that relationship. 1-2. Fisted foul. Robbie Thompson, the second baseman for the San Francisco Giants, was scouted and was sold to the front office to get him. Robbie Thompson was signed by Tom Zimmer, Don's son. I mean, you want to talk about a full circle.
Very touching moment before the game when the clubs were introduced. The managers, of course, just on opposite sides of home plate. And it was, I mean, it was absolute emotion, and you could see the two of them when Zim came out. Of course, the Giants were all already looking at each other, shaking hands. And you could just feel the love going between those two individuals. It's a 40-year friendship.
1-2 the count. 2-2. And did it hit him? It did. So Williams nipped by the pitch and is awarded first, and that'll bring up Terry Kennedy. When Roger Craig first came to the old Brooklyn Dodgers, they called him Slim. Not just because he's tall and lean, and you'd have to be an old-time moviegoer to remember a character in the movies named Slim Somerville, and that's where he got the nickname Slim. And for Zimmer, he's had a lot of nicknames: Tippy, Popeye. And Kennedy rolls one to the right side, and there's Ryne Sandberg, and that's that. 1 run, 1 hit, 1 swing by Will Clark, and at the end of 2.5 innings, it is 4-2 San Francisco.
One of the National League Championship Series is brought to you by Extra Gold Draft, the party time beer with a full tilt taste. And by Kentucky Fried Chicken. Cross the road to Kentucky Fried Chicken.
The Goodyear Blimp Enterprise flying above Wrigley. Captain Dick Esch of Barrington, Illinois, appropriately enough, at the wheel. And Jerome Walden takes ball 1. Walden, first ball hitting, remember, in the bottom of the first inning, hit a one-hopper to Matt Williams, who threw him out. Fouled away. When Walden went to junior college, he went to a school that is certainly aptly named the way he has played. He went to a little junior college in Alabama, Enterprise State. And they were playing a team in Louisiana, a twilight night doubleheader, and all the scouts came early. But the doubleheader went on, and the scouts kept leaving, and one scout stayed till the end, and then gave him a tryout at about 1:30 in the morning. And he liked him, and he's now with the Cubs, and maybe the Rookie of the Year. 1 down.
One of the real finds for Don Zimmer. Early in the season, in starting outfield, they were all hurt and going to their minor league system and find some outfielders. Jerome Walton and Dwight Smith came up. One out of AAA, one out of AA. 2 minor leaguers and came in. One of them hit .293 all year. The other one .324. Probably finished 1-2 in the Rookie of the Year award. 2 great finds by Jimmy Fry and Don Zimmer.
Here's Ryne Sandberg, who came to the Cubs in a deal with the Phillies, and what a great deal that was for Chicago. Sandberg hit a very solid .290 along with his 30 home runs and lifted the Cubs' spirits in the first inning. they were down when the Giants jumped out with 3. Sandberg, as he has done so many times, led them back with a double, and then Mark Grace hit the home run. The one problem, if it is a problem, when you hit in the number 2 slot and you hit a lot of home runs, everyone is examining your home runs. And they say, well, yeah, he hit 30 home runs, but 22 of them with the bases empty. But that can happen when you're hitting second. There's a long fly ball into left center. It is gone. So Ryne Sandberg, with the bases empty, puts another wrinkle in Roger Craig's forehead as he hits it out. 2 home runs against Scotty Garrelts in 2 1/3 innings. He allowed only 11 all year. Now here is Dwight Smith with Mark Grace on deck. Smith struck out in the first inning. It is 4-3 Giants. And we're only in the 3rd inning. Line drive backhanded by Matt Williams. And he took a bullet double away from Smith.
Consider every time that Garrelts has been hurt tonight, been behind in the count. Sandberg hit a 2-0 pitch. He hit a 3-1 pitch early in the game for the double. Grace's home run came on a 3-2 pitch. The advantage going to the hitter. Luis Salazar the triple on a 2-0 pitch. We're talking about a guy that last 13 starts is super.
So Mark Grace 9 for 12 against Scotty Garrelts. With Grace coming up, you might file this away. No player has ever hit home runs in his first 2 National League Championship Series at-bats. Gary Gaetti did it in '87. And here comes Andre Dawson, and they are up and at him at Wrigley Field with the salam. Andre, very much of a poker-faced player, but on his birthday, the good folks in the right field bleachers made him a cake, and he went out to his position, and they gave him the salam, and he shocked them. He salamed them back. And the chant, Andre, Andre, 2-0 the count. What an opening act. 4-3 Giants, bottom of the 3rd. Breaking ball in there. 2-1. Dawson finished up the year hitting safely in 9 of his last 10. And there goes Jeff Brantley down to the Giant bullpen. And there goes the runner Grace. The pitch inside Kennedy's throw. He's stolen it. Remember, Terry Kennedy is playing tonight with a sore right shoulder, and we wondered whether the Cubs would try to exploit that. And Grace now is in scoring position representing the tying run.
Don Zimmer said that he would definitely run against Terry Kennedy. He'd run against the Giants, try to utilize his team speed.
3-1. Checked up. Ball 4. Bruce Fleming indicating no swing. The runners at first and second, 2 out, and Luis Salazar, the batter. Salazar, you remember, tripled in the 2nd inning, and the Cubs left him. Roger Craig is unhappy, I'm sure, not only about the way the Cubs are hitting Garrelts, but the fact that Scotty is making a lot of pitches. He has made 54 pitches, and he's still trying to get the 3rd out in the 3rd inning. And Scott Garrelts has been a truly remarkable pitcher all year. That's why he wound up leading the league with the lowest earned run average. Ball 1. He averages 2 earned runs a game, and he's already given up 3, and he's in more trouble here in the 3rd inning. Coming into this game, Scotty finished up the year losing his last 2, but one of those 2 was a magnificent effort. He lost 1-0. Little pop fly to Jose Uribe, and that takes care of Salazar and the Cubs. But the Cubs bounce back as Prince Valiant, Ryne Sandberg, gets him off the floor a second time, and his home run gets him close. It's 4-3 Giants. Scotty Gurrell's comforted, however, by the fact that the Giants are still leading 4-3. And in the 4th inning, Pat Sheridan, Jose Uribe, and then Gurrell. Breaking ball strike. 0-1 to Sheridan, who popped a short in the 1st inning. Short hop by Rona. 1 ball and 1 strike. We mentioned that Gurrell came in having lost his last 2 starts. Maddox finished up the year winning his last 2. Ball 2.
He passed up a start on the last day of the season. If he'd have wanted to give him 20 victories, obviously passing it up to get ready for the LCS.
Fastball pulled foul, and the count 2-2. At 170 pounds, he worked 238 innings. What's the most number of innings you ever pitched?
290 something, probably. Very slightly built. You figure the last 2 years he's pitched to almost 500 innings. 190 some odd innings. Just a rail.
Ground foul. There are several pitchers in the last 2 years have done exceptionally well, and one of them is Greg Maddux. Now, some of the others have gotten considerable print. With his 37 victories in 2 years, we'll show you the distinguished company. Dave Stewart, Oral Hershiser, Brett Saberhagen, and Frank Viola. As Pearl Bailey would say, that ain't no bad crowd to hang around with. 2-2. Fouled away. Giants 4, Cubs 3. Greg Maddux and Scotty Gurrell still in there.
Don Zimmer talking about Greg Maddux said he reminds him of Don Drysdale in his approach. He is so aggressive, so self-confident that he will pitch inside. A great heart, a great competitor. George Zim coming out of the Dodger organization. And that is quite a compliment, because Drysdale was quite a pitcher.
Line drive, base hit to center by Pat Sheridan. You know, you could put an asterisk and a footnote to that. Oddly enough, when Don Zimmer came to the Chicago Cubs, he hit his first home run as a Cub in Los Angeles against Don Drysdale. And the batter will be Jose Uribe.
Drysdale knock him down the next time?
Probably. Uribe grounded out in the 2nd inning. Jose in and out of the lineup. First because he just stopped hitting. Then he had some physical problems. But Roger Craig has always felt Jose has been the best shortstop in the league. That would get quite an argument here with Sean Dunston.
Some of the talk yesterday around here was that Matt Williams would go to shortstop and Uribe at 3rd, but all year long.
You mean Riles?
Riles at 3rd base, excuse me. And Uribe out of the lineup, but all year long, Roger Craig has talked about his defense up the middle. Uribe, Butler in center field, and Thompson at 2nd. He has been nothing but throwing accolades on his defense up the middle, and he really does feel Uribe ranks with the best in the National League, right along with Dunston and Ozzie Smith.
1 ball and no strikes to count. On deck, Scotty Gurrell's Paul Ossenmacher. The left-hander begins to throw in the Cub bullpen. There goes the runner. Hit and run, ground ball into right field. Base hit. So Sheridan sees Dawson is deep and keeps on going to 3rd. So a perfectly executed hit and run single to right by Jose Uribe, and the Giants are in business.
Roger Craig putting on the hit and run. Both managers will do anything at any time. Both of them very aggressive. Neither one of them afraid to make a mistake. Here, putting the runner in motion, keeping the ball club out of a double play. Pitcher up next, but certainly going to be in order in this situation.
Interesting, too, that Uribe hitting left-handed, and Sandberg broke to cover. The ball was in the hole anyway. But the Cubs, thinking Uribe could not pull Maddox, but pull him he did. Now let's see if Garrelts tries to get the bunt down. 1 ball and no strikes. Garrelts had 9 hits this year, a couple of RBIs, and sacrificed only twice. Bill Fahey wigwagging a sign out to him. 1 ball, no strikes. First and third, nobody out in the 4th. Giants 4, Cubs 3.
Garrelts looked like he was going to try a butcher boy in the last pitch. We'll see if he keeps it up.
2-0. And somebody's going to say, what do you mean butcher boy? Those of us who remember Casey Stengel remember, but
a butcher boy where you would, in a bunt situation, turn around as if you were going to bunt the ball and then swing away, put the ball into play. You see Bill Fahey again giving the signs to Garrelts, who walk over and give a verbal sign to Sheridan.
2-0. Luis Salazar moving a little bit with Sheridan. Full swing with the runner going, no one covering. Uribe with the infield back, and neither Sandberg nor Dunston on the move to handle a throw, so Uribe steals second. So the Cubs had Mark Grace steal on Kennedy, and now the Giants return the favor, and that really put some heat on the Cub infield. They have to play up. Second and third, nobody out. The outfield is now very shallow, and Maddox is trying to strike out Scotty Garrelts. 2-2. Maddox is on thin ice right now with Assenmacher in the pen and Butler due up next. The shortest outing for Maddox all year was the end of July. He couldn't get out of the 4th inning in Los Angeles. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Got him. Well, that could be a big out. It could be an escape hatch out of the jam. We'll see. Now, Brett Butler coming up. And you can see what Zimmer's saying. Put him on.
A big out for Maddox. You're talking about one of the quality pitchers in the National League. Here's a guy that started 1-5 and then won 18 of his last 25 decisions. Zim's not going to let Butler beat you in this situation. He'll set up the double play possibility with Thompson. Not only the double play, but remember Thompson, 133 strikeouts.
It hurt him once, and he got away with it once. When Zimmer was managing the Red Sox, he got away with it. Earlier this year, managing the Cubs, he walked a hitter intentionally with runners at first and second. Boy, Maddox almost crossed up Ronan, threw that away. He walked Harry Spillman with runners at first and second. Young Jeff Pico, I think, was the pitcher, who then walked the next batter, and it beat him. But he is not afraid to put people on. And here's that almost cross-up with Rick Rona, what would have been a wild pitch. Watch Rona going one way. Whoops. Great save. All right, bases loaded, 1 out. Robbie Thompson, the batter. And the first thing Zimmer said was watch out for the squeeze with Thompson. Even though he is a home run hitter, he has 9 sacrifices. The infield is back in double play depth. However, Salazar and Grace at the corners are up. Check swing foul. Off to the right, into the crowd. 0-1.
You see the scouting report on Robbie Thompson, a high fastball hitter. Likes the ball up and hard in the strike zone. You got to jam him hard inside, breaking balls down and away. Obviously, Maddox in this situation, looking for a ground ball, wants the double play ball.
0-1. Oh, the crowd was umpiring on that pitch. Oh, did they want that one? And the count, 1 ball, 1 strike.
Doug Harvey behind the plate, the premier umpire in the National League. This looked like a strike. Tailing right on the inside corner. Of course, from the inside angle that Harvey had, he was right on top of it.
1-1. Squeeze, and he fouled it back. So they were looking squeeze, and Zimmer was looking for it, but he was not going to call a pitch out. A busted squeeze. It's okay in the sense that Thompson at least got a piece of it. Otherwise, Sheridan is naked under the world.
Both these managers, in a sense, mavericks. They will play by the book, but they will play by their own book. A page out of Zimmer's books with the bases loaded to squeeze play. They will play hunches. They'll play feelings. They'll play what they see on the field if they can get or squeeze a run out of someplace.
1-2. High pop fly to Sean Dunston. The infield fly rule is called, and that's the second out. But now, 2 outs does not an inning make. And look who's coming up. Don Zimmer going out to the mound, and Will Clark will be the batter with the bases loaded. Now, would you bring in Paul Assenmacher to pitch to an outstanding hitter, or do you leave Maddox in with Kevin Mitchell on deck?
That's the question certainly Don Zimmer is going to have to face. You're talking about one of the finest pitchers in the National League. There is quite a duo right there.
As they call them in the San Francisco area, the Pacific Sock Exchange. And it is open for business, and Maddox will go head-to-head with Will Clark, who has doubled and homered tonight. Sheridan at third, Uribe at second, Butler at first. 2 down. Giants 4, Cubs 3. The pitchers have regained momentum for each team. Remember when Scotty Garrelts allowed the triple to Salazar and shut him down? Now that the Cubs have gotten close, Maddox is trying to regain the momentum and get out of this jam. And Clark trying to nail him to the wall. High drive into deep right field. It is a grand slam home run. Will Clark, one of the great hitters in the National League, one of the great hitters in baseball, has a double and 2 home runs, one of them a grand slam, and that has broken it wide open. The Giants 8 and the Cubs 3.
Boy, does he have intensity. Woo! Doesn't believe that there is anybody in the National League who get him out. You can see Zim motioning to Dick Pohl, get somebody ready. Wants a sinker ball pitcher up in the bullpen.
Kevin Mitchell, a fly ball down the right field line, slicing foul. Grace can't get it. He had to take his eye off the ball to see how close he was to the brick wall. High fives all around. That's Rick Russell giving him the bear hug. Those are the Championship Series Grand Slam home runs. Interestingly enough, down there in that Giant dugout is Dusty Baker, who was the last one to do it in the National League. Another foul ball.
Boy, a thing of beauty. Look at that fastball right out over the plate. Throwing fastballs, you got to get it in. Head of the plate, in toward him. Left out over the plate. That one all the way out of the ballpark.
No balls and 2 strikes. Another note about Will Clark's grand slam. His only previous career grand slam was against another Maddox, Mike Maddox of the Philadelphia Phillies this year. 2-2 the count to Kevin Mitchell. So one of the great hitters in the league is having a magnificent night with a double and 2 home runs, including a slam. And of course, it shows you just how good Kevin Mitchell is, that they are forced to pitch to Will Clark.
He's been in a great spot all year, hitting in front of Kevin Mitchell. And he has said it publicly. He says, I'm in a great spot, hitting in front of Kevin.
Ground ball hard to third. Salazar is with it and takes care of Mitchell. Well, the Giants have really regained the momentum, and Will Clark is the man who did it. And it is 8-3 San Francisco. Twice tonight, the Cubs have come back to within 1. But now they find themselves trailing by 5. It'll be Dunston, Rona, and probably a hitter for Maddox. There's ball 1. Sean had a chance to pick up an RBI in the 2nd inning. That's when Luis Salazar opened up with a triple, and the Cubs left him. high fly ball to center. Butler has a play. Looks up into that Chicago night. One away. We're talking about Will Clark, and what does it mean to have Kevin Mitchell hit behind him? So before the game, we asked Will, and he's the one to tell us.
Well, what Kevin has done for me hitting behind me is with the intimidated role that he plays, he's given me a lot more pitches to swing at because guys now are coming at me not wanting to get to Kevin with a lot of people on base. So I'm seeing more strikes this year, and it's been fun because I've been able to swing the bat a little bit more.
Boy, is he having fun, and there's the reason with Mitchell hitting back of him. Mitchell is 1 for 3, and Clark is out of sight tonight. 3 for 3, a double and 2 home runs, one of them a grand slam. So Will Clark has 6 RBIs. He's been cleaning the plate ahead of Kevin. 8-3 San Francisco. Rick Rona at the plate, and on deck, Marvell Wynn. So Wynn will bat for Greg Maddux. Chopper foul. 1-2 the count to Rona. Rona had a chance, just like Dunston. He came up with 1 out and a runner at third, and he left Salazar. Giants led 3-0, 3-2, 4-2, 4-3, and now 8-3. On the outside corner, so Rona shot down. 2 out in the 4th, and Marvell Wynn has now been called back into the dugout. So Wynn obviously was going to bat only if there was somebody on base, and they'll go to Vance Law in his stead. Vance Law remembers the league championship series. He played for the Chicago White Sox in '83.
Zimmer will save Marvell Wynn for a situation later in the ballgame in case there's somebody on base. Law was a regular third baseman, excuse me, when the season opened, and then really fell into a slump. Did not get off on the right track offensively. And you see his numbers for the year, and that's when the Cubs went out and got Luis Salazar. Sent Calvin Schiraldi and got Salazar and Marvell Wynn from the San Diego Padres. This ball club has not been afraid to make a trade. Jimmy Fry, of course, the big trade over the winter. And they sent Rafael Palmeiro to Texas and got Mitch Williams, and that trade was highly criticized in the Chicago area. They gave away a 300 hitter for an unknown and unproven stopper in the bullpen, but Williams, probably the main reason why they have won this year in Chicago.
Law fouling it upstairs off to the right, and the count 0-1. On deck, the leadoff man, Jerome Walton. Vance Law, whose father was a fine pitcher for the Pittsburgh Pirates. 1-1. Father and son combinations who are all-stars. Fouled away. 1-2. Jam-packed crowd here at Wrigley Field, with Wrigley Field and Candlestick, the 2 oldest parks in the National League. And the Cubs and the Giants, 2 of 9 teams in the major leagues, to set one-season attendance records this year. Cardinals, Royals, Rangers, Red Sox, Orioles, Blue Jays, and A's, along with the Cubs and Giants. And by the way, that idea that the Bay Area in San Francisco can't support 2 teams, the Giants and A's combined drew more than 4.5 million fans. That's strike 3 call. So Vance Law, like Rona, goes down on strikes, and we'll be back after these messages from your local station.
His name is Mancuso, a career FBI man who views justice in terms of black and white.
What we do isn't about politics. It's about right and wrong.
Friday, October 13th, he shows his true colors. Robert Loggia stars in the series premiere of Mancuso FBI, premieres Friday, October 13th.
Toes that feel warm, feet that feel comfortable, carpeting that's soft, carpeting that's new. That's Williams House of Carpet in Atascadero. Come see for yourself. All the money-saving specials throughout the store on carpeting and all drapery fabrics, even window coverings. Come and feel the comfort of new carpeting, floor coverings, drapes, and window coverings at Williams House of Carpet, 7900 El Camino Real, Atascadero.
So, as I'm leaving, they say, what do we owe you? I say, nothing. When there's a problem, it's our job to check it out, day or night. The look on their face made me feel good, you know?
The gas company, glad to be of service.
Hey, you know, there's one good thing about this remodeling. We're finally going to have gas heating and appliances. That'll save us a lot in the long run.
Good. We can buy back the children.
The gas company, glad to be of service.
High on the western slope of Colorado, off limits to the outside world, is an aspen forest where babies are born. In this secluded place, preserved and protected by people who work nearby, American elk come to give birth and walk out with a new generation. Do people set aside places where only nature has a right to be? People do.
Marlon Brando in The Formula, tonight at 8:30.
Game 1 of the National League Championship Series is brought to you by your local authorized Porsche dealer and by Wendy's Old Fashioned Hamburgers, the best hamburger in the business.
We go to the 5th inning with the Giants sitting on top of an 8-3 lead and Paul Kilgus picking up the pieces for Greg Maddux. Kilgus pitching to Williams, Kennedy, and Sheridan. High pop fly on the infield. Sandberg calling as he goes out on the grass. Boy, that thing was really up there. One away. So Sandberg puts it away. We have a reminder, Saturday, NBC's boxing tour returns to Sports World. Tony the Tiger Lopez against John Molina in a rematch of one of 88's most controversial fights. The rematch and the championship Saturday on NBC Sports World. Here's Terry Kennedy, grounded out twice. Kennedy, who haunted the Cubs when he was with San Diego. And there's another story there. Sitting quietly, that white-haired gentleman with the raincoat, Bob Kennedy, his father, who was the Cubs executive vice president from 1977 through 1981 and is now assistant to general manager Al Rosen. There are so many cross stories in this series.
So many people that have touched and their lives have touched. Nothing more dramatic than the two managers, though. You see the appeal, and third base umpire Jim Cook says no.
2-1.
Make a replay and the appeal. You can see Kennedy holding up.
And he promptly hits one over Sandberg's head into center for a base hit. So Terry Kennedy 1 for 3 with a base hit. The Giants piling them up, 9 hits. They had 8 runs and 8 hits against starter Greg Maddux.
Dad, a big smile on his face after that base hit, too.
I would think. Pat Sheridan, the batter. 1 out, 1 on in the 5th. The Giants were retired in order only in the 2nd inning. That's when they started off with the numbers 8 and 9 hitters. Otherwise, they've had standing room only out on the base path. 1 ball and no strikes. Slow roller to Sandberg. He'll get the feed to Dunston, who guns to Grace too late. So they get the force play, 4-6. The ball was not really hit hard enough to get a double play. So 2 down, and Jose Uribe coming up. And when you think about it, after looking at that force play again, despite the great arm by Dunston, Sheridan beat it easily.
Ball just not hit hard enough. Exactly right. Sandberg making a good play to make sure they're 1 out. Situations like that, you know the ball is not hit hard enough, and you know the speed of the runner. Just make sure you get the lead runner.
Jose Uribe, who had one of the bigger at-bats because he set the table for Will Clark in the 4th inning. He was hitting left-handed, remember, when they put on the hit-and-run play with Sheridan, and Uribe pulled Maddox and singled to right field. So then you had the intentional walk after Uribe stole second base. So he'll be lost in the shuffle. There'll be headlines naturally about Clark's double, his 2 home runs, including a slam. But Uribe's base hit in the 4th inning really set the table. 0-1, and then the stolen base. That's in there. 0-2 the count. Scott Gereltz out on deck. So 1 minute, it looked like he was very close to coming out when Jeff Brantley went running down to the bullpen, but now he has a 5-run cushion to lean on. No balls, 2 strikes. Uribe's numbers are a little bit better as a left-handed batter than right. Maybe 30-some-odd points higher from the other side of the plate. 8-3 Giants, top of the 5th.
A lot of similarities in these 2 ball clubs. Of course, the Cubs led the National League in runs scored. 702. The Giants scored 699, just 3 less. They did it a little bit different ways. The Giants with power, the Cubs with good batting average and team speed.
Interesting, in 1987, the Cubs set a Cub record in home runs. They had 209 and finished last. This year, they had more stolen bases than home runs. That's how close they are. No balls, 2 strikes to Jose Uribe. 1-2.
Of course, it's Kilgo's job to keep the Cubs close as a middle reliever. Vinny talked earlier in the game about how the Chicago ball club on numerous occasions has come back. I mean, they've come back from 10-0 deficits.
Uribe on a slow curveball strikes out. No runs to hit, a man left. It's still 8-3 Giants.
Time is one of the few things man cannot influence. It gives each of us a beginning.
We go to the bottom of the 5th inning with Jerome Walton, followed by Ryne Sandberg, and then Dwight Smith, as the Cubs try to come back and claw out from under the records of what is now an 8-3 Giant lead. Walton grounded to third, grounded to second, 0 for 2. Scotty Gereltz has retired the last 4 in a row as he tries to recover because he was on some very shaky ground in the 3rd inning. He got Salazar to pop up with runners at first and second and 2 out. He had the feeling things were getting away from him then, but then Will Clark made it a little easier. 4-1.
67 pitches through 4 innings for Gereltz. You've got to realize that this Giant staff only had 12 complete games all year. Scotty had 2. He averaged just over 6.5 innings per start. Roger Craig will go to the bullpen. A good bullpen in Bedrosian, a good closer in Bedrosian, the same way that Mitch Williams is for the Chicago Cubs. But it is not a ball club that has many complete games, and we will see people out of the bullpen.
Here's that moment in the 3rd inning as the Cubs appeared to come back. Ryne Sandberg, who had doubled in the 1st inning, hit one out to set off the Rockets at Wrigley, and then Will Clark came in and tried to turn out the lights with a grand slam. So Sandberg 2 for 2. You never know how important experience is, but if experience does indeed pay off in the outcome of the League Championship Series, then the Giants would be heavy favorites. The Giants have 17 players with League Championship Series. The Cubs have 6. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Sandberg's double on the 1st inning came on a fastball, the home run on a fastball. He can hit anybody's fastball in this league. Dead mistake fastball hitter. You wonder if Gereltz and Kennedy have realized that both base hits on the fastball. Home run he absolutely crushed. He can hit the fastball that is in. He can hit it in the fastball that's outside as well.
2-1 the count. Foul back.
Both times he swung the bat here, he's gone after the fastball. You can see the scouting report. These reports put together by various scouts around the National League. Likes a fastball up and out over the plate, can handle the pitch down. Weaker on the breaking balls, especially hard sliders down and away. There are not many hitters in this league that aren't weaker on that pitch.
3-2 the count.
A small message that if you're going to look for my fastball, take a closer look. Nothing wrong with that. Sandberg, as you can see, aggressive, going right out at Garrelts, the pitcher. Ball not that far inside. And Garrelts wants the outer half of the plate. That'll be interesting to see on the 3-2 count. Going to come back with a fastball or going to get a breaking ball here?
Fastball hit in the air to right center field. Sheridan moving under it. 2 down. During the 12 meetings between the Giants and the Cubs, there really were only 2 blowouts. In June, in San Francisco, the Giants beat the Cubs 12-2. And the last time they played in July here at Wrigley Field, the Cubs won 9-5. All the other ball games were tough, close games. In fact, a half a dozen of them by 1 run. There's a shot speared by Matt Williams on his feet to throw out Smith. A fine play by Matt Williams, the Giant third baseman. And the Cubs are gone. That's 7 in a row retired by Garrelts. But of course, Williams really kept the string alive with this play. And it's still 8-3 San Francisco. Garrelts running for a base hit, but Ryne Sandberg throws him out. 1 down in the 6th inning. Matt Williams has made a couple of dazzling plays at third base, particularly against Dwight Smith, and Scotty Garrelts over to talk to him.
Is he thanking him or telling him to back up? I mean, he's taking 2 shots down at third base. Said, listen, back up over there before you get hurt.
1 away, and here's Brett Butler. Butler singled and eventually came around to score the first run of the game, struck out, then was walked intentionally and scored, fakes the bunt. So Butler doing his job as the leadoff man that he is, on base twice, scoring twice, so you get an idea of what he's like during the regular year when he scored 100 runs. And look at the pressure on the infield. With Salazar and Grace shortening up, he takes another strike. 0-2. Adley Hammaker, the left-hander, begins to throw now in the Giant bullpen. Remember, as Tom mentioned, Scotty Garrelts only has 2 complete games all year. 1-2 the count to Brett Butler.
Salazar goes back even with the bag. First inning, Butler went to 2 strikes and simply poked the ball between Dunston and Salazar here. Against the left-hander, probably try to go to left field again. Koga's trying to stay inside. He's going to go to left. He's going to have to inside out the ball. Dwight Smith way around in left field, and Walton on the left field side of second base in center field. So it's the way they expect Butler to hit the ball.
Fouled away.
People in the Giant organization have called Butler the consummate leadoff man. Good base runner, smart base runner, steals some bases for you, 31 stolen bases during the year, bunt singles, hit for an average, hit right at the 285, 290 mark all year long. A great addition to the San Francisco Giants. You see Al Rosen, the general manager of the San Francisco Giants, responsible for putting this ball club together.
And his wife, Rita. I would think of all the trades the Atlanta Braves have made in the last few years, losing Brett Butler has been the galling one. Dunston throws another blur, and we have 2 down in the 6th inning. And that'll bring up Robbie Thompson.
Talking about Dunston at shortstop. A lot of people in the Cub organization tried to get him, pull him back and not throw the ball so hard to first base, and he really felt like he would lose control of the ball and had to let it go. Couldn't hold back because the ball would sail all over the place.
His father tells a great story about Sean Dunston. His dad's from the New York area. Fouled away off to the right. His dad was saying when Sean was 8 years old, the kids in the neighborhood put a big mattress out by the house and they were jumping off the roof. Oh, he decided, I got to be one of the guys.
Great story.
He went up on the roof and he ran too fast and overshot the mattress and broke his leg. And his father said, you see, you're always trying to do too much. And that's what happened to him early in his career. Chopper wide to third, right under the glove of Salazar and on out into left field. And Robbie Thompson a turn and holding. So if that goes as a base hit, and it does, the only member of the Giants without a hit is Scott Garrelts. Here's the biggest swing of the night by Will Clark.
Greg Maddox with the big out.
And now Will Clark at this very moment fouling one away. Will Clark has put on an awesome demonstration. He doubled in the first inning to drive in Butler. He came up in the third inning with the bases empty and homered. Came up in the fourth inning with the bases loaded and hit a grand slam home run. 6 RBIs. No one has more than 6 in one game in postseason play. That's LCS and World Series. That's the kind of a night Will Clark is having. And again, as we said, it's also a tribute to the presence of Kevin Mitchell hitting behind him. 0-2.
I asked Clark why he hadn't been successful against the Cubs. He says he never really faces anybody for any length of time. He doesn't know what people are going to throw. The only people that he really feels comfortable against are really Maddox and Sutcliffe.
And he promptly bangs it up the middle. He is 4 for 4, and Robbie Thompson is not about to stop at second. Boy, that is an awesome display, isn't it? A single, a double, and 2 home runs, including a grand slam. Coming at you.
Here against the left-hander, simply going right back up the middle. Another rally put together by the Giants with 2 outs. They turn it on, they can be a real scoring machine. They're 26-14 in blowouts during the year. A blowout meaning that they win a game by more than 5 runs. 26-14.
Well, here's Kevin Mitchell, first and third, and 2 out in the 6th inning. 8-3 Giants in the dirt. Good save by Rick Rona. Ball 1, 1-0. Mitchell singled to center in the first inning. Did not get an RBI. He singled and Clark went to third. Remember, he thought that Sandberg was going to catch the line drive. So he is without an RBI. 2 balls and no strikes to count. So everyone but Garrelts in the Giant lineup with at least 1 hit. And Clark has 4 of them. Thompson down the line from third. Clark from first. In the dirt, gets behind the plate, and the runners hold anyway. Even despite the bad throw to the plate, Thompson had no thought of coming, and Clark, with the bruised shin, had no idea that he was going to run to second. So the Cubs got away with that, and they count 3-0. Now you say to yourself, 3-0 to Kevin Mitchell. Would you even bother pitching to him?
You might wonder why Will Clark stayed at first base. Dusty Baker, the hitting coach for the Giants, calls Will Clark the best base runner on the ball club. What does he do when he stays at first base? And then you cannot put Kevin Mitchell on. They will have to pitch to him.
Why?
Unless Don Zimmer says, heck with it, put him on.
Why would you pitch to him? 3-0?
But that's why Clark stayed at first base.
Yep. Now, if he hits a 3-0 pitch into northern Well, he doesn't. He hits a high foul, but you knew. I mean, if you're Roger Craig, you ought to say, thank you. I'm going to let my big guy go 3-0. And he fouled it off.
Here you see Thompson at third base. His initial reaction was hesitation. And as soon as you hesitate, you're really lost in that situation. The ball not far enough away from Rona to score after the hesitation.
Thompson at third, Clark at first, 2 out in the 6th, and the count 3-1 to Kevin Mitchell. And he hits a high drive to dead center. Back goes Walton. Under it now. No runs, 2 hits and 2 left. And at the end of 5.5, it remains 8-3 Giants. Congratulations to the Rolaids 1989 Relief Man Award given to Mark Davis of the San Diego Padres. Rolaids proud to have brought you the relief break every week during the past year. Mark Grace, Andre Dawson, and Luis Salazar. Line drive, base hit. Boy, you want to know the high rent district? It's first base. And Mark Grace's hero is the guy holding him on, Will Clark.
I could talk all day about that guy. He's, in my opinion, the best hitter in baseball, and he will be the best hitter in baseball for a long time. He combines a great batting average with power, and he can also run and get down the line. So he gets his, he can get infield hits. And the thing about Will Clark is he will give you 100% every time he's out on the field, and you can't ask for anything more than that.
Mark Grace now 10 for 13 against Scotty Garrelts. And the batter is Andre Dawson. Ball 1. So you look at first base. You see Will Clark and Mark Grace. And they have 3 singles, a double, and 3 home runs between them. That's a Park Avenue penthouse. 1-0. Fisted slowly to the right side. And Robbie Thompson gets Dawson. So Andre is jammed. 1 away. And down to second goes Grace. It's still 8-3 San Francisco. And the batter will be Luis Salazar.
Amazing thing about Grace and Clark. And Clark being the hero and Grace talking about him. Both 25 years old. One of the finest young players in all of baseball. They're going to be stars for a long time. Offensively and defensively. The thing that Mark Grace talked about is how hard Will Clark works. And Grace himself worked tremendously hard with Joe Altobello to improve his defense this year.
That's a strike to Luis Salazar. That was when Will Clark singled in the 6th inning.
Looks like a mutual admiration society, doesn't it?
And how. A little ground ball wide to third. Matt Williams comes up with it. Salazar does not run well, and he throws him out. So Matt Williams taking a possible hit away from Salazar.
Williams has had a super game at third base tonight. A couple of great plays to rob Dwight Smith of base hits. Far to his left. A young man that's built like a National Football League linebacker. He is awesome specimen. He's strong. He looks like Dick Butkus looking over the line at you.
Well, Sean Dunston with Mark Grace at third, 2 out in the 6th inning. Ground ball, short hop by Matt Williams. And so the leadoff single is wasted. Matt Williams goes to the dugout. A job well done, and we'll be back after these messages from your local station.
Fields. See them all at your Mitsubishi Motors dealer. And by the companies of the Prudential. Come to the Prudential and build your future on the rock.
We've come to the 7th inning here at Wrigley Field. It's Matt Williams, followed by Terry Kennedy and Pat Sheridan. And the Giants leading 8-3 as Paul Gilgas works on Matt Williams. The Giants hit 4 Grand Slam home runs this year. Will Clark, Ernest Riles, and 2 by Matt Williams. And then, of course, Clark hit the big one tonight. That's Dusty Baker, who hit the last slam in the National League Championship Series back in 1977, talking to Will Clark.
Clark hit only, Williams hit only just over 200 during the year, but the last couple of months he had more home runs and more RBIs than Mitchell or Clark, either one of them.
Bruce Fremming, if they want to ask him, and the count 0-2. That sets up the point very well. After the 1st of August, Williams did not have any average to talk about at all. Hit only 202. He hit his first Grand Slam home run last year. And then 2 this year. It jammed him, cracked his bat. Watch Dunston. Whoa. Oh, boy. You know, this Sunday, join NBC Sports for the unmatched excitement of the NFL, beginning at 12:30 Eastern with NFL Live. And some of you will see Buffalo's Machine Gun Kelly lead the Bills into the Hoosier Dome to battle Eric Dickerson and company. The Colts look to even it up in the AFC East. Plus, exciting regional action, so check your local listings for the game and time in your area. And before it all, a special report. O.J. Simpson will report on the tumultuous week of the Los Angeles Raiders. 1 down. Ground ball back of first, backhanded by Mark Grace. 2 down.
Well, it's show of first baseman tonight, isn't it? Offensively and defensively both. Talked about how Grace has worked with Joe Octabelli, a coach for Don Zimmer on the Cubs, extremely hard on his defense. He said he was very embarrassed last year the way he played defensively. Spring training, they get out and work every morning ahead of everybody else, and he has made himself into a fine first baseman. There you see the error figures for the last 2 years and how he has really cut them down.
Big sweeper outside to Sheridan. Pad is popped to short. Single to center, hit into a force play. His leadoff single in the 4th inning was the beginning of the end for Greg Maddux. That's when the Giants loaded the bases, and then Clark hit it out. That's in there. 2-1. Giants did not get a lot of production from their right fielders this year, but Sheridan gets the start tonight, drives one to center. Walden has it get off his glove, and Sheridan, who runs very well, is going to keep on going. Smith throws it in to Dunston, who then flips it to Sandberg, but by that time Sheridan is in there. I think Walden would make that play. He might have taken his eye off the ball for a split second because he was very close to the ivy, and he knows what's behind the ivy. Bricks.
Talking about how the wind here in Wrigley Field will have an effect on the baseball. He thought he caught the ball. The wind's blowing gently out. The wind is blowing just slightly in. That ball is a routine catch. Walton thought he had it right in his glove. Hit right off the heel.
So Jose Uribe, 1 for 3, trying to pick up Pat Sheridan. Right. Take another look at that. He'll close the glove at the last second as if he has it, and it hit him right on the heel of the glove. He even looked in the glove as he was leaning into the ivy. 0-1. Well, we are piling up the extra base hits. That's the 9th. That'd be too short of a National League Championship Series record. Giants with a dozen hits. 0-2 the count to Uribe. Giants 8, Cubs 3, top of the 7th. When the Cubs come up in the bottom of the 7th inning, they are due to send up Rick Rona, Paul Kilgus, and Jerome Walden, as Zimmer moving his shortstop Dunston more to the hole. Two and 2.
The infield is relatively slow here at Wrigley Field. Always has had a reputation of being a slow infield. A lot of hitters used to moan and gripe about it, that the grass was so thick.
Ball 3. Well, that's another thing they have in common because they also have a slow infield at Candlestick. You can lose a small dog at either place.
Hitters that used to play in this ballpark used to gripe about the long grass, but they used to tell them, well, that's the only way that we can get you defensively to be able to get to certain baseballs.
Well, he didn't really want Uribe with the pitcher due up next. Tried to make him bite. Jose would not do it, so he draws the walk. And Scott Garrelt's 0 for 3 coming up.
Kind of a situation where you take your pick, you look down, there was nobody warming up in the Giant bullpen, and with 2 outs, pitcher on deck. Don't let the 8th place hitter drive in a run when you can pitch against the pitcher.
Except managers die by that theory. Let's get that 8th place hitter so we can have the pitcher leading off the next inning. And so many of them have been pinned to the mat because of it.
You're down 8-3, though.
Yeah, that's right.
You can't give up another run.
1 ball and no strikes to Scotty Garrelt. Kilgus figures to be coming out here in the 7th inning when he's turned to hit. When Garrelts is pitching in the bottom of the 7th inning, he'll be right around his average all year per inning. Uribe goes on a strike, a fake by Rona, and a throw to third. They got him. Fine play by Rick Rona. He made a good fake, good full arm extension like that. And that's the only way. No half fake, full fake. You really give Rick Rona tremendous credit for that follow through. The great arm extension and fake by Rona. This is the way to fake a throw. All the way, not shaking the ball like you're listening to something inside of it. And because of that arm extension, Sheridan was hung out to dry and nailed by Salazar. And look at his reaction. Well, it's 8-3 in favor of the Giants, bottom of the 7th. Rick Rona will start it off. Marvell Wynn is out on deck to hit for Paul Kilgus, and then Jerome Walden. Doug Harvey, the veteran National League umpire, in charge. Rick Rona had a fine night with the glove and a bad night with the bat. He has struck out twice. Steve Wilson, a left-hander, throwing in the Cub bullpen. So Kilgus is finished. It's been Maddox before, then Kilgus, and soon to be Wilson. 1-1 to Rick Rona.
Cubs lost Damon Berryhill during the course of the season. An arm injury, and then the catching chores shared between Rona and Joe Girardi.
One and two the count to Rona. Now this is when you really start having negative thoughts. I'm going to strike out 3 times, national television, league championship series. Let's see if he still takes an offensive swing or just a protective swing. And he hits a line drive in Matt Williams. And Matt Williams has a magnet in that glove. He's making some great plays down there at third base. 1 away.
Matt Williams catching just everything at third base, putting on quite a show defensively. About 4 line drives that have hit right at him. The only ball that he's missed, remember, was the ball that Sandberg hit in the first inning, went just inside the bag down the left field line for a double.
And the batter now is Marvell Wynn, hitting for Paul Kilgus. And he lifts one back at third, down the line, a trio of Giants. Mitchell for the out. So 2 down in the 7th inning. And the batter will be the leadoff man, Jerome Walden. We mentioned earlier about the infields being comparable, slow, thick, lush grass. And when you have grass that thick, you're always worrying about bad hops, etc. So here at Wrigley Field, they were making sure it would stay in place.
Just a little home clinic on how to take care of your yard here.
That's right.
Put a nail on it.
Yeah. What were you doing? I'm sorry. I was out in the backyard nailing down my lawn. Jerome Walden grounded out twice and struck out. Cubs have a half a dozen hits to go with their 3 runs. But as you watch the game unfold now, you realize they had a golden opportunity in the 2nd and 3rd innings to catch Garrelts. In the 2nd inning, they had Salazar triple. He was the tying run, and they couldn't pick him up. In the 3rd, they had a home run, a single, and a walk, but had only 1. And then Garrelts has straightened up his act. Scotty retired 7 in a row, gave up a base hit, and he's retired 4 in a row. And it is still 8-3 Giants, bottom of the 7th. 2-1. Now back. Walden's been bothered by a hamstring pull, although Jerome said that he's 95% ready. And that's good enough, more than good enough. Two and 2. Shot up the middle, smothered by Thompson, but then it bounces away from him, and Walden is aboard. So Walden gets the 7th Chicago hit, and the batter will be Ryne Sandberg.
Walden gets a base hit off of Thompson's glove. And 3 rookies prior to that base hit. Walden, Smith, and Ronan in the ballgame so far were 0 for 9. And 3 youngsters in the lineup for the Cubs this evening.
So Walden aboard with 2 down, and Ryne Sandberg doubled, homered, and flied to right. Ground ball into left field, base hit. One thing about Sandberg, he might not have the night that Will Clark is having, but he is trying to lift the Cubs at every opportunity. His double in the 1st inning ignited for 2. His home run in the 3rd brought life back. And now with 2 out, he extends the inning for young Dwight Smith. And Craig Lefferts gets up in the Giant bullpen. Norm Sherry, the Giant pitching coach, going out to counsel Garrelts. Remember now, this is just about Scott Garrelts' average. Just less than 7 innings of work, and he's worked 6 2/3 tonight. He has made 94 pitches. If he was on the beam, you say, well, what does that mean? If you figured 15 pitches an inning, and he worked 7 innings, he'd work 105 pitches. So 94 pitches is not a lot here in the 7th inning, to put it in perspective.
Remember the last 2 years that Scotty has made no starts. He's been working out of the bullpen. 29 starts this year. And Roger has gone to his bullpen frequently and early. And Garrelts has pitched very well to pitch out of trouble and get this far.
He's pitched away to Dwight Smith, gets a strike. And Smith going with the pitches, lined out to Matt Williams at 3rd, and then lost a base hit on a diving stop by Matt Williams at 3rd. So we'll see if he goes that way again. It's 8-3 Giants, bottom of the 7th. 2 out. 1-1.
You can see that pitch, how he looked like he was very awkward delivering the ball. Talked about it before. One of the things that Scotty did as a reliever, felt that he had to throw every pitch like it was a Nolan Ryan fastball instead of having some control of that fastball.
1-1. And that's hit to center. Going back is Butler and picks it off. So Dwight Smith is going to go 0 for 4 in the box score, but he's hit 3 balls right on the button, and it's still 8-3 Giants. Won the suit. Got something like 720 tickets. And his fee was 1/3 of the tickets should he win. He wound up with like 240 tickets. 0-2 the count.
Friend of yours?
I wish I knew him. Yeah.
240 tickets in this ballpark is a lot of seats.
That's a lot of seats.
This is a small seating capacity ballpark.
I mean, I don't know if it's for one game or the entire this or what, but that's a lot of tickets. 0-2 the count to Brett Butler. The Giants coming into Wrigley Field had to shake themselves a little bit. They had lost 2 straight here, 3 of the last 4 they played here. And the Giants had not been playing well the final week of the season. They lost 5 out of 6. But Roger Craig was not worried about his ball club because over the long haul, the last month, he won 20 out of 30. And tonight, with an incredible performance by Will Clark, a single double and 2 home runs, including a slam, the Giants are leading 8-3.
You'd think Craig coming in here would be happy to win 1 out of 2 in the visiting ballpark. Big psychological edge getting on top, winning game number 1. Don Zimmer would have loved to have won 2 here in this ballpark. And now tomorrow night, hopefully, if the Giants hang on, we'll have to settle for a split if they can win.
3-2 the count to Brett Butler. And tomorrow night, Mike Bilecki, who has been a great story in his own right. He'll be on the mound for the Cubs. And that'll be 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That'll be after the Bill Cosby Show. Fisted slowly to Dunston. Look at that. So Dunston throwing BBs over there to Mark Grace. And we have 2 down in the 8th inning. Butler, in trying to hit that bag to beat the throw, hurt his ankle or foot a little bit, as so often happens, and that might be twice the trouble it is now when he wakes up tomorrow morning.
You'll have to get some ice on that. That last stride to first base, you could see him jump out there, and if he hit the side of the bag, it'd roll over and twist that ankle some.
Take a look at him as he is going to try and beat Dunston's throw. Oh, yeah, that left foot hit down, toes into the dirt, top of the foot right on the bag. That had to hurt. Chopper to third. Backing up is Salazar. And once you begin to back up, you let the ball play you. You are asking for trouble, and Salazar's got plenty of it. He had a ball get under his glove in the 6th inning, and now he backs up and he'll draw an error.
The second time that Salazar has really played the ball exactly the same way. Louis, a very versatile player, can play in the outfield, can play in the infield, do a lot of things for you, but he's a liability defensively, cannot play defensively as well as Vance Law, who he replaced at third base for Chicago.
And what really annoys the people here in the ballpark is that error by Salazar allows guess who to come up with 2 out. Mr. Clark, if you please. All Will Clark has done tonight is double in the 1st inning, homer in the 3rd, hit a grand slam home run in the 4th, and single in the 6th. Two balls and no strikes.
Amazing when you think about Clark in 1985 was playing his first year of professional baseball, played A-ball in Fresno, California, in the California State League. Next year, starting first baseman in the big leagues for the Giants, and hit close to 290. In the next 2 years, he turned on the power.
In the dirt, pushed up along third, no chance to get Thompson, who moves into second base.
Trying to keep the ball down and away from Will Clark. You can drive the ball out of here. You make him hit the ball down and away, make him hit it out to left field. You see Rona, just the way that Kennedy did before, moving squarely out in front of the ball, trying to curl those shoulders, keep the ball out in front of him. It just bounced away too far. Thompson ends up on second.
3-0. Remember, Kevin Mitchell was allowed to swing 3-0, and Roger, no doubt, would give Clark the green light if he likes the location, but instead it's ball 4. So that makes a perfect evening for Clark. A walk, a single, a double, and 2 home runs, and here's Mitchell. The theory of how to hit, as proposed by Kevin Mitchell. You go up to swing the bat, only the mailman walks. Mitchell has one of the more interesting lockers in baseball. Ball 1, 1-0. And one of the things, and kids, if you're listening now, this is highly not recommended. But when Kevin Mitchell has a cold, he eats Vicks. And now it says on the label, don't eat Vicks, but he eats Vicks. And you know, who's going to tell Kevin not to eat Vicks? 5'11", 210, and you say to him, well, when you have a cold, you're supposed to rub it on your chest, under your nostrils. He said, it makes me feel good. That's Scott Sanderson down in the Cub bullpen.
Wilson being a little tentative on the mound, looking very carefully to Clark. Tough to pitch around real Clark when you got a right-hand hitter like Mitchell hitting behind him, even though Clark has been hot as a firecracker tonight. Been a long night for Zimmer so far.
1 ball and no strikes to Kevin Mitchell. Thompson at second, Clark at first. 2 out in the 8th. Giants 8, Cubs 3. High pop foul off first base. Mark Grace. The ball's going to be behind him and drop untouched. A breeze blowing out towards center field, and that's what caused the trouble.
I think Mark Grace lost it. He looked down to see where those auxiliary seats are, checking it out, and the breeze, which has been blowing out all night long, carries the ball well back into the playing field, albeit in foul territory, right between Sandberg and Grace. You see Grace shuffling over now. Those seats that you could see that he was trying to protect himself from usually are not there. Those are auxiliary seats put in for this event.
1-1 to count to Kevin Mitchell. Mitchell has singled, struck out, grounded out, and flied out. Remember, in the inning, Bates struck out and Butler grounded out. Robbie Thompson's ground ball should have been the last out, but Salazar couldn't handle it. Then Clark walked, and here's Mitchell. Cubs will have Grace, Dawson, and Salazar in the bottom of the 8th. Oh, boy. Was that an error by Salazar? What kind of an error? A 3-run home run error. And it is suddenly 11-3 San Francisco. The mailman not only walks, the mailman delivers. And Mitchell has just delivered his second hit and 3 RBIs. So Steve Wilson is welcome to the club. All 3 runs unearned because of the error by Salazar.
That's just a line drive right out of here. Fastball up in the zone, out over the plate. Not much on it. We'll see if that one comes back.
You know, talking about comeback, we should make a point here. Strike 1. In 1984, when the Cubs were last in the League Championship Series, they won the first game against San Diego. You know what the score was? 13-0. Strike 2. Statistically, it shows you the importance of that first game. But that's pretty close. 12-8. Talking about close, that's another thing about League Championship Series in the National League. They have really reached parity. 4-1. This is the 21st League Championship Series. The West has won 10. The East has won 10. And if Mitchell wants to eat Vicks, order up another plate.
popped in the air around the plate. Coming down is Mark Grace, but Rona, look out for his helmet. Almost stepped in it. So Williams pops it up. Kevin Mitchell. Watch this awesome swing. It is not as pretty. The symmetry is not the same as Will Clark, but the results are just as great. Grace, Andre Dawson, and Luis Salazar against right-hander Jeff Brantley. When it was 8-3, Craig had Lefferts in the pen. Craig, knowing that Lefferts has had a sore shoulder. Now that it's 11-3, he gives the ball to young Brantley, who has built up a reputation. Despite being a newcomer, he's a bulldog, and look at those numbers. If there's one thing that pleases veteran observers in the league is to put the compliment on a pitcher, he goes right after the hitters, and that's exactly what this fella does. And he's 0-2 on Grace. Ball 1.
Be aggressive, throw strikes, go right after him. I think it has always been appreciated by everybody in baseball who's concerned with pitching.
High fly ball to left center. Fading back is Butler to put it away. Friends, stay tuned for your late local news, and coming up next on most of these NBC stations, then it's the best in late night entertainment, beginning with The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson, followed by Late Night with David Letterman, and Stay Up After with Bob Costas. He chats with legendary singer-songwriter Bonnie Raitt. All tonight, only on NBC. Here's Andre Dawson. Dawson grounded to second in the first inning, walked in the third, grounded to second in the sixth. So he has been up and able to pull a ball. He hadn't gotten the ball to pull.
The big lead allows Roger Craig to save Lefferts. Then he talked about Lefferts has a sore shoulder. Said it felt a lot better after taking about a week off. But a big lead like that, you can save him for tomorrow night.
And the fastball just puts Andre Dawson on the shelf. I mean, he just threw that right by him. That's the ball that Kevin Mitchell hit out into the street in the 8th inning with 2 men aboard.
I never saw it come back.
No. I remember the mailman who ran down the home run.
We were here doing the game. That was on a Friday afternoon. We took the mailman in, and they supposedly were going to discipline him
for leaving his truck.
Yeah, for leaving his truck. They finally said no, it was okay because it was on his lunch hour.
A one-hopper off the glove of Matt Williams. He left the magnet in the dugout, and that thing was shelled. So Salazar ripped it, and that's the first time Williams has not been able to come up with a ball. It's a solid base hit, too hot to handle.
Seen several hot shots down to third base tonight. Williams has got everything in the world. You can see him just trying to backhand. It's really a defensive play, and if you can knock it down at third base, you still throw somebody out. That ball taking the hop on the dirt.
Sean Dunston going to right field, and Pat Sheridan is there to put it away. No runs, 1 hit, a man left. At the end of 8, 11-3 San Francisco. Here at Wrigley Field, and the Giants enjoying a commanding lead, 11-3. One of the Giants' stories is the reaction on a fly ball by Sean Dunston in the 8th inning. It was caught by Pat Sheridan. It didn't seem to be much, but look at that. One of the great emotional stories, Dave Dravecky. They also serve who only stand and wait. Kurt Manwaring fouls it away. Dravecky, who overcame cancer and the resulting operation, came back to win, then broke his arm. But his perspective is perfect. In fact, he wrote an open letter saying that my wife and I are unable to answer all of the people who sent their love and best wishes,
It was a beautiful letter. He's quite a wonderful guy. And he has to be one of the great stories in baseball or anywhere, because it is truly an inspiration what Dave Dravecky has done, the mountain he has climbed, and how he has held his head up despite the disappointment. Ground ball down to short. Dunston is on it. It was slowed down by Wilson. One away.
A lot of people talk about the comeback player of the year at this time. Of course, most of that voting is done. All the voting for MVP and Cy Young, etc., have to be done before postseason play. But if you can talk about a comeback player, well, it's a romantic story. So you think about Lonnie Smith and the great year that he had with the Atlanta Braves, but that's probably the most emotional story in baseball this year.
Without a doubt.
I saw it last night on TV. I had not seen it before, watching it at the hotel. The delivery of the pitch in Montreal, it's the first time that I had seen it. And I want to tell you, you talk about a delivery of the ball, and all of a sudden, as if he had been shot, and just a knot in your stomach would develop immediately. Went down to the ground and rolled over and over. It was just an awful sight.
But how he accepted that was so wonderful. His reaction was not, I've blown it, I've this, I've done that. The reaction was, okay, so be it. Candy Maldonado is going to get his feet wet now. He'll bat for Pat Sheridan. So Manwaring and then Maldonado. 1 ball and no strikes.
The Giants really with 3 questions. The season's opened up. Who was going to get the number 5 spot? They've kind of answered that with Mitch Williams. A closer, they got Steve Bedrosian.
Drive to right, but Dawson is there. 2 down.
And the other question mark, right field. That's been shared by Maldonado, and Sheridan is really the one question mark for the Giants that remains unanswered. Maldonado for most of the season playing right field and hitting behind Mitchell in the number 5 spot. And it wasn't really until Matt Williams really developed and began to slug the ball that the number 5 spot in that situation was filled for them.
Here's Uribe, singled and walked tonight. 1 ball and no strikes. Grounded out, single, struck out, and then walked. Had that key base hit, a hit-and-run single in the 4th inning that eventually led up to Will Clark's grand slam. It's 11-3 Giants, top of the 9th inning. 1-1.
Mitch Williams getting some work in the bullpen down for the Chicago Cubs. Obviously just getting some throwing in. Temperatures, it's dropped down. It seems like in the 40s here. And Mitch with no sleeves, no undershirt. Of course, now Mitch, you're talking about Mitch. You can start bringing out the quotes. Obviously just getting some work in with the Cubs clinching the National League East. A report from our guys downstairs at 52 degrees.
Fouled away.
A number of off days that the Cubs have had. He's just trying to stay sharp.
You know, we alluded with 2 out to Dave Dravecky. Watch this. That's when the arm broke. But I still marvel at how he accepted the frustration, the pain, the disappointment, and put it all in the right perspective. Jose Uribe is caught looking, and the 9th inning is in the books, and Dravecky is still on record as a rooter.
We cannot overcome their superior forces. Only a miracle can save us now.
My son!
He's a lead. Mean. Ninja machine. After Spuds clears the air of ninja warfare, he's rewarded with Bud Light. Everything else is just a light.
9th inning, 11-3 Giants. Rick Rona against left-hander Atlee Hammaker. And Candy Maldonado, who batted for Pat Sheridan, is in right field. Kurt Manwaring, who batted for Terry Kennedy, is behind the plate. Ground ball slowly to short. Uribe picks it, takes care of him, 1 away. Friends, the executive producer of NBC Sports, Terry O'Neill, the coordinating producer of NBC's baseball coverage and the producer of tonight's game, John J. Filippelli, directed by Andy Rosenberg. Replay producers Tom Roy and Bucky Gunts. Pregame produced by Les Dennis, directed by Doug Graber. Technical director Marilyn Altman. Facilities technical director Ken Harvey. Roger Craig and the Giants 2 outs away from the win in Game 1. And here's Lloyd McClendon batting for Marvell Wynn. 1 away in the 9th. As we mentioned at the very start of the ball game, ground ball to the left of Uribe, off his glove and foot into center, and McClendon is aboard. And it'll be a base hit. Both these teams during the year have come back. The Cubs came back from trailing 9-0 to Houston to win 10-9. The Giants came back down 8-0 against Cincinnati. Came back to win that one 9-8. They were down 7-0 against the Dodgers and came back to win 8-7. The point being that both these teams have shown bulldog, and one win will not discourage the loser, nor will the winners exult. Doug Harvey now wants to check about Domingo Ramos. So Ramos hitting for Wilson, who is the #1 slot. Each team trying to get some people a little bit of work in Game 1. So the Cubs have used Law, Wynn, McClendon, and now Ramos, along with the pitchers, Maddox, Kilgus, and Wilson. And the Giants have done the same, using 2 catchers, 2 right fielders, 1 pinch hitter, Bill Babe, and 3 pitchers. Ramos drives one to right. Maldonado makes the catch, and back to first base goes McClendon. So Ramos hits it hard. Maldonado runs it down, and the Giants now 1 out away from winning Game 1. Ryne Sandberg doubled in the first inning, homered in the 3rd, singled in the 7th. So Ryne 3 for 4. Mark Grace has 2 singles and a home run, and Luis Salazar has a triple and a single. They've basically done the Cub hitting. Hammaker had to put a pretty good move on because Lloyd McClendon was sprinting back to first base on that pitch, even though Clark is not holding him on. That's really a good move when you're not even held on in your retreat. Sandberg, a fly ball. This ought to do it. Brett Butler is there, and that's it. The Giants win the first game of the League Championship Series. Craig triumphs over Zimmer. Gereltz over Maddox. And this one is history. And the Giants did it with muscle, including a grand slam by Clark, who hit 2, and a 3-run home run by Kevin Mitchell.
The National League Championship Series has been brought to you by today's Chevrolet, who invites you to see why nobody's winning like the heartbeat of America. By Anheuser-Busch, we brew our fine quality beers to be enjoyed responsibly. Remember, know when to say when. By Lennox Heating and Air Conditioning, quality proven over time. Since 1895, must be a Lennox. And by MCI, we are the better long-distance company. MCI, let us show you.
The Giants pound the Cubs 11-3 due to an incredible performance by first baseman Will Clark. Let's meet him and go to Marv Albert.
And Will the Thrill Clark providing many thrills for the Giants tonight. One of the outstanding performances in the history of postseason competition with the 2 home runs, 4 hits, 6 RBIs, shattering a number of records. Not bad for you and teammates who had managed only 2 home runs against the Cubs all season.
Well, what happens is anything can happen in a 7-game set, and everybody knows that. No matter what we did during the season against the Cubs, pretty much goes out the window when you go into the playoffs. And lucky to get a hold of a few balls tonight, but I got to give credit to my teammates. They did a great job. Scotty Garrell struggled early, but found his control and did a great job. And also the guys in front of Kevin and myself were able to get on.
Well, when you were on deck,
get Dre.
Ossenmacher Zimmer did not make the move. He stayed with with Maddox, which will be second guess. But I know you've had great success in the past against Assenmacher.
Well, I've hit Assenmacher fairly well, but also on top of that, I think Zimmer's got a lot of confidence in his starting pitch, and he's stuck with him all year long. And Maddox wasn't throwing the ball that bad, but, you know, too much.
All right, well, congratulations on an incredible night.
Thank you.
All right, Will Clark, let's get back to Vin and Tom.
Thank you, fellas. Game 2 tomorrow night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. 17-game winner Rick Russell, 18-game winner Mike Bialecki. From Wrigley Field in Chicago for Tom Seaver, this is Vin Scully saying so long and see you tomorrow night.